Do you think that you should be giving second chances at all?
Would you ban a 15-year-old for life if they cheated in a Title Tuesday?
What's your relationship with Hans nowadays?
Hans benefits from the narrative that he is still being persecuted. It is not true.
And I do feel like I'm not looking at a real chess event. I'm looking at some sort of hybrid.
We're trying to protect our site. And we're trying to protect the players, but we're also trying to be fair and compassionate.
Can we just go off the record for like 1 second?
All right. Welcome back, everybody, to another C-Squared podcast episode. We are doing back-to-back live episodes. We had one with Anna Kremling and Pia. Right now, we have another special guest with us, the CCO of chess.com, Chief Chess Officer. That's what it stands for.
Chief Chess Officer is a bit of a mouthful.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Welcome to the pod, Danny.
Thank you for having me. I feel like it's been too long, given how long this thing has been going.
You were on an episode, but it was a very impromptu in a car, yeah.
And you got me sick that day. You were sick.
Somebody got us sick.
We were sitting very close.
Somebody got us sick. Yeah.
I think Fabi.
Don't think it was me. I don't think I was sick. I don't think I was sick.
You and I haven't done inappropriate content together in quite a while since you visited.
Many years.
In 2021.
Actually, I did do something with you and Wesley.
Oh, that's right. That went viral for a minute. That was actually so good.
In Toronto. Yeah.
That was fun. You regret that?
I don't regret it.
You don't regret anything. No regrets, man. But no, thank you for having me. Jokes aside, guys, I'm honored to be here. I'm excited, and should be fun.
Yeah, you actually flew here with somebody as well. So you made the whole thing out of being on our show. So we appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, I feel like in-person podcasts are a little more enjoyable. Not to take anything away from the remote podcasts. I've done a few of those this year, but I kind of like the effort, and I haven't been to St. Louis for a minute. So the excuse actually capturing you two in the same location is difficult, more difficult than people know. So
haven't been to St. Louis in a minute?
I haven't been to St. Louis in a minute. I haven't been to St. Louis since the day of, what do we call it? Is it like Judgment Day? The day the chess world changed?
September 2022. Yeah, that was a big one.
2022.
September 4. Yeah. Okay.
I was here at the start of round 3 between Magnus and Hans. Hopped on a plane and went home with my 2 boys. My oldest son is in the background, for those who notice him or not. That's the last time he was here too. But we were here, and then the round started, and hopped on a plane and landed to a big result, and controversy began to swirl.
I feel like the whole chess world sort of changed at that point. Like everything just accelerated. The drama, the cheating, scandals, obviously the online chess as well. Your platform, chess.com, pretty much exploded. That was a huge boom.
It feels exhausting to think about the last 3 years, honestly.
Yeah. But then again, it feels like yesterday also. It doesn't feel like 3 years have passed. Anyway, and I'm sure we'll get into that, and we'll go through the whole timeline for the next hour or so. But you also just launched a book, or at least you're in the process of launching a book. And that's part of the reason why you're with us as well. Tell us a bit about that, and what is it about?
Yeah, the book is Dark Squares. It's a memoir. I think a lot of people, when you think of a chess person writing a book, you think it's a chess book. There's not a single chess diagram in the book, for those curious. But it's the story of my life. And for those who don't know, while I wouldn't say I've kept it secret, it hasn't necessarily been a conversation topic that I led with. Mm-hmm. I'm curious, when you heard that I jumped on electric fences as a kid in 2021, if you had any more questions about where I was raised.
I'm very curious.
Very curious. Very curious. If anyone doesn't know that clip, I don't know how you guys will edit that in, but we had a fun moment.
We'll get it in.
This is a force field. Why can't I just jump over it, right? It's like an electric fence. It zaps me back. If I could put the king here, we have a different position, right? You ever jumped on an electric fence as a kid?
No.
Where I grew up, there were a lot of them. You keep out like elk and stuff, and you ever like run from your friends, you're playing tag, and you jump on the fence and instantly, like literally, I've jumped on an electric fence, been shocked, right off of the fence.
Danny.
That's how the king feels right now.
Danny, that explains a lot.
We had a fun moment on the couch with Robert during the World Championship in 2021. But I was raised in Telna Village, Arizona, which was where the Church of Immortal Consciousness, which was a spiritual group formed it was a cult, and it's taken me a lot of years to come to terms with that. But once you do, and you kind of reflect on a lot of things about that experience, you realize that it was not normal and not okay. And the unique story of my life is that as I became a strong chess player in the American chess scene, one of the top players, I was taken away, separated from my mother by the cult leader in order to pursue chess, which is the wildest thing in the world, given that that road kind of ultimately led me here. So without getting into more details, unless you want to, because we're not just here to talk about the book. I appreciate the opportunity to let people know that if they're interested in the story, they might want to earmark that. But that's the hook. That's why the story kind of wrote itself, or at least there was interest in the story.
Well, it's also a good segue into your life in the world of chess, right? And how you developed, and you're an international master, so you're a pretty strong player as well. But did they realize that you have talent, the cult leader? Or what was the process there?
Yeah, I mean, I learned to play chess along with my stepbrother, which is its own very complicated story with my parents and how that dynamic went down. Because my dad was actually one of the leaders of the cult. Very wild aspects there. And I learned to play chess with my stepbrother, and we got good really fast. We were obsessed with Searching for Bobby Fischer. I mean, that was the movie that got a whole generation of players into the game. We played in tournaments. We started doing really well. And so I guess seeing that we were talented and that I, in particular, had a knack for the game was pretty obvious. Plus, we were in a small village and there wasn't a lot else to do. And we were dirt poor. It was a fully merged financial and spiritual commune. The cult leaders ran all the money. And so there was a lot of aspects to that where chess was pretty special to us as kids, and I jumped right in. So, and then jumped on electric fences from time to time because it was the electric fences were not for the people in the. You keep giving me that look, like the story gets weirder with the electric fences, but it wasn't to keep people in. Just so you know, it wasn't that extreme. So it was just for animals.
Okay.
Yeah, just because when you live in the forest, you try to keep deer.
And you just thought it would be fun.
But no, well, honestly, as a kid, when you're dirt poor, running with no shoes around a village, and you're playing tag all the time before you learn how to play chess, back in the glory days, as I call it, you just don't think about what you're doing, and you run and jump on neighbors' fences, and then you find out the hard way that they're hardwired with electric. Anyway, so
I think we've all done some stupid things.
I think we've all done some.
Luckily, kids can bounce back physically.
Yeah, but as you said, that explains a lot. So.
If it's not, because I don't know if you want to kind of keep the secrets of the story for the book, but how did you get out if it's not? There are some things I'm not allowed to talk about yet. I'm happy to come back next year if your audience will have me, depending on the level of negative comments we get. No, I'm kidding. But there are certain things I'm not supposed to dive into fully yet. Just obviously that's part of the deal. It'll be out in September. But I would just say that I think the Hollywood version of what happens to a lot of cults, you think of infamous ones, you think of Jonestown, you think of Waco, you think of Heaven's Gate, you think of cults that operated with some sort of agenda, or there was a violent endgame, right? I think there's a lot of high control, high demand groups and experiences that people have with religious leaders and spiritual agendas that are less of a dramatic finish, but never to say equally. Everyone's experience is different, and obviously, I certainly didn't have as bad of an experience as those in Jonestown and others. But what I would say is, there's a lot of things that the scars that you carry in terms of the manipulative kind of dynamics are similar to lots of different types of abuse. But the way it ends often in a lot of these groups is like they kind of implode on themselves. And they kind of fall apart, rather than it being like a Hollywood ending where you wake up in the middle of the night and have an epiphany and say, I'm living in a cult. That wasn't my experience. And obviously there are a lot of details in there. I mean, I was married very young. My wife and I were living in it in the collective together, making our marriage work and kind of getting through that while there was a lot of really kind of heavy shit going down is a big part of the story too.
Does the cult still operate to this day?
No. No, the woman, the deity who it was sort of based around, passed away. the cult leader, the main person is still there, still around, but it has kind of fallen by the wayside just first, yeah.
So you were getting pretty good at chess. Like, what were the peers around you at that time? Do you remember?
My competition?
Your peers, yeah. Your competition.
Asuka, Hikaru's older brother, was like my main rival.
Okay.
We competed for different national championships. While we watched Hikaru, the person who was a year and a half, almost 2 years younger than us, slowly get better than us, and then not so slowly get better than us.
Did you know Fabi? Was Fabi around at that point?
I've known Fabi. I remember the first time I saw Fabi, standing on a chair to see over the table, I think so.
That must have been the late 90s or early 2000s.
Yeah.
And
I was probably 15, 16.
You're 6 years older than me, is that right?
I'm 39.
Okay, so yeah, you're about 6 years older.
Yeah. I think we played in the first tournament together when you were 7. Mm-hmm. And I was maybe 13 or 14.
Was that like a scholastic event? We were in different sections, or was that one of those?
I think so. Okay. I think I remember
sense.
You being a talented junior that, everyone had already taken note of. But of course, when you're playing the American chess circuit, the Goichberg series, as we call it, right?
Yeah.
Foxwoods, World Open, and the lot, you kind of bounce around and,
And those tournaments are still going on.
They're still going on, right? Talk about impressive. A cold. No, I'm just kidding. Am I allowed to say that? The Goichberg series of events. The Goichberg events are a lot of fun, and the American Swiss circuit is a challenging one.
Yeah. We probably would have faced each other, but I, at some point, left the scene.
Yeah.
So I don't think we ever played.
No, I don't think we ever did either.
Yeah.
I remember you coming and looking at my board at one point, and I did a double take. I'm like, who's the tiny kid over here?
He's good.
He's good.
He's good.
No, and then when did you move to Italy?
2004. Ended 2004.
Okay.
Oh, moved to Spain.
Yeah.
Moved to Spain.
You moved to Spain right away. Okay,
yeah.
That's right. And then eventually took up shop in Italy. Yeah.
Did you like it? Did you like chess? Was the passion of yours, or
I loved chess.
Was somebody else forcing you to play?
I loved chess until it became
like a profession, right?
A profession, which unfortunately for me started at a much younger age, and the pressure was very real. I would say very quickly in my early teens, chess became more of tormentor than mentor. It was difficult. I still played, obviously, and pretty well for a lot of years to come. But it was difficult. I was basically orphaned because of my talent and because of the unique control and power that the leaders of the collective had over everyone within it. So yeah, it's been a very interesting relationship that I've had with the game. I would just say that it's been an obsession and then became something that was much more than that as far as my job, if you want to say that, but also something that I feel a great sense of purpose within in terms of what I do and what I try to do anyway. But it also comes with a lot of scars. Yeah.
I feel that's a story for a lot of players, especially around, the 24, 25, 2600, maybe. Obviously, I don't know how it is for you and the players of your level, but I feel like I fell out of love with chess at some point as well, just because of the competition, just because of the pressure that competition comes with. So yeah, it's interesting. Now I'm obviously in the chess world and I love what I'm doing, but I don't like as much competing, and I don't think I would enjoy chess if I would be only competing.
I think a lot of people like or love chess, but the competition is very painful for everyone.
Losing is very painful.
How have you done it for so long? I mean, you must have had stages where you were in the similar sort of up and down as far as your love with the game. But
sure, yeah. But I realize that it's just something you just have to live with.
Yeah.
And when it comes to competition,
I think anything that not only are you really good at, the illusion that even if you're good at something that it always feels good or every day is good is kind of an illusion, right? And I think at some point you learn to love the labor as much as anything else. Like you learn to literally love the process, right? So obviously you must have found.
I think it's kind of exciting, and you don't have. It's very hard to replicate that in any casual way. Like there's professional competition, and I don't think there's a way to replicate that.
The high you get from it.
Yeah, you can play for fun, but it's just a bit different, right? You don't have the thrill. People maybe try to find thrill in different ways, but I find competition can be.
It's fun.
Yeah, it can be very fun for that reason, and also it can hurt a lot.
Yeah.
But then I also thought about it from a philosophical point of view. And I thought like if you kind of place your value on your results on the outside world, then everyone's a loser. Because there's like every kind of failure is amplified and every victory is forgotten very quickly. So if you're Magnus or Gary, you're just like brought down to earth very quickly if you care about what the outside world says. And if you kind of care about your own success based on your perception of it, then you might be much more happy.
I wish you had given that advice to 13-year-old Danny. That was very deep. So I wish I had heard that. I mean, I definitely had way more of my self-worth and value wrapped up, partly because it was literally my spiritually sort of endowed mission by the cult leader, which is, again, it's a big part of the story, and went through a lot of years of trauma kind of unpacking that and didn't handle it well, as you'll read.
So
but,
did he like sat you down and had a talk with you, told you like you are tasked with being the best chess player on the planet?
Literally.
Coming from this cult.
And I shouldn't tell more about it, but literally, and then the snowball and the dominoes that fell from there were absolutely wild. And especially given that part of being in that dynamic is that I was on board with the whole thing, you know, because you're brainwashed into believing, you know, in the mission.
Sure.
And so, yeah. But I mean, jokes aside, I mean, having your self-worth, regardless of my sort of unique circumstances, I think a lot of competitors who reach a high level at a young age, even if the high level is relative to others, can relate to the dangers of having your self-worth wrapped up in the accomplishment and the kudos you get from others, right? The externally, you know, external validation being such a dangerous thing for young people in general, regardless of the literal, you know, validation I was trying to earn about, you know, having spiritual worth on the planet, which was its own very, very wild thing. But no, I think that's it's nice to hear you say that as far as the perspective that keeps you kind of grounded, you know, doing what you do.
I think it's hard to keep people happy.
Yeah.
Do you regret that that you kind of grew up in a way that you couldn't make the most of your chess ability? Or
I do sometimes. I wouldn't trade my position or my life for the world. And I really mean that. I think, and just in terms of how I view life, the universe, existence, I believe that if you wouldn't change the ending, you don't get the right to cherry pick the parts of your life that you would change, right? You don't get to say, I'm happy with where I've come and I'm proud of how I've worked through my issues. And if I could go back in time, these are all the things that, it doesn't mean you're making an excuse for your abusers, and it doesn't mean you're denying what happened. In fact, if anything, those experiences are part of what made you who you are, right? And got you to where you are. But I don't really like to think of it in terms of I would change anything. At the same time, if I think about how quickly I lost my love for the game because of what it became at a young age, yeah, there's a part of me that goes, the irony of my story is that by taking me away from my mother, it was a fast track to putting me on a path where I was not mentally capable of achieving whatever my highest potential was. And I don't know what that would have been. And what came from there is, I'm probably already saying too much, and my PR team is going to yell at me. Danny, you said you weren't going to talk this much about it, but I said they're my friends, so I want to talk. So anyway, but no, I think that, yeah, that kind of sets the table for a lot of stuff there.
But speaking of that type of psychological play, the fact that you're kind of seeing yourself, or at least somebody else is telling you that you're this main character, do you feel like that positively impacted your career?
Like in a positive way? Or
in a positive way. After you gave up, you know, competitive chess, but, you know, now you're one of the main players, let's say, in chess. Was that type of mission?
I will say it's funny because if it is, it's come from many years of trying to work through, you know, the dynamic that Fabi described, which is believing in having worth within chess because I failed so miserably at this idea of needing to become the world champion,
sure,
or needing to become at least like one of the best players in the world, right? And so in some ways it is like the superpower of self-doubt and feeling like an imposter, along with, maybe still believing that if the multiverse and the sliding doors had been different, it could have been there, that keeps you driving toward this goal of, well, if I can't be the best player in the world, maybe I can change the world of chess. Maybe I can be a part of changing it for others. And maybe I can achieve something in regards to building whether it is, a chess platform or a different way for other people to view the game.
How did chess.com come to be? Did you guys when did you guys buy the domain? How did that come to be?
So Eric and Jay are the original co-founders. I was made honorary co-founder, partly because I did come in very early on, right after them. And I guess
that was
very quickly.
2006, 2007?
So Eric bought the domain out of a bankruptcy auction in the Bay Area. I think I'm allowed to say the number at this point. It's public, for $56,000, which is a screaming deal, given that it's a 7-figure domain, probably before you even build a product.
Yeah.
But it was owned by a group of VCs who were not getting along and kind of didn't know what they had totally. And so Eric, who had already run a couple of different chess businesses while putting himself into Stanford to pursue an MBA. So he got the domain. Jay was the tech hand. So Eric was the business hand, Jay was the tech hand, and I kind of came in early along with David Pruis. And initially it was David and I together. And then because David left early on, and then Jay also left early on, it very quickly became Eric and Danny's kind of show. And then for many years, most people thought that I was the CEO and the face and everything. And a lot of people thought that Eric was kind of like an absentee boss. You know what I mean? No one who's ever worked a day at chess.com or experienced our culture would ever say that about Eric. He is the most in the weeds, the most in love with chess and wanting to fix a lot of things that he, didn't like about lacking a community for him online and what he really wanted to see. So Eric has always been very involved. But because I was the face and because a lot of people thought I was kind of in charge of it all and I took on a lot of responsibility, at a certain point, everyone who was just calling me the CEO and founder, Eric and Jay, we all got tired of correcting everybody. And it was like, you're just co-founder from now on. And that just makes it easier. So anyway, that was kind of how that happened. But the very quick story is they bought the domain. They launched. I joined early on. I met them actually at the Berkeley International, a tournament at the East Bay Chess Club, at the Berkeley Chess School actually at the time. I was brought on to work in content and do the things. And then that became all the other things. So that's quick TLDR.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
I think I once heard this story before at one of the dinners that we had during the 2021 World Championship.
Okay.
And
Did I tell it differently then?
No, it was
Okay.
maybe it wasn't you who told it also, because it was like a big group of us at the table, but it was kind of the...
If it was
story.
Eric's version, he probably said, and Danny was an obnoxious asshole when we first met him, because I was an obnoxious asshole. I mean, I was very passionate, and Eric had no idea that my life was literally falling apart at this time. Like my marriage was in shambles. His mom was almost divorcing me. I was still holding on to the edge of thinking that I could become a grandmaster and maybe much more.
You were still
but I wasn't
involved in the cult. You were still.
I was still, okay. And it was kind of petering toward it, and that's another reason why my life was falling apart. And now my PR person really is going to get mad at me. I can hear you, Bianca. Everything's going to be okay. I'll stop talking about it. Yeah, it was not going well, and Eric and Jay stepped in, and I think to my credit, I saw a lot of potential for what chess.com could be, even more than they did. And they would say the same, and they have said the same. So I'm not, grandstanding or flexing in that regard. I think in some ways you could say I was delusional to believe that chess could get where it is today. But I had a different vision, and they were looking to build the MySpace of chess and sort of get out and, chill and see what a social community could do. And I was like, this could be a lot more. And I was crazy, and I was obnoxious and abrasive in my views, and I let it be known to them. And they didn't like me very much at the start.
What was the vision at that point? Like, do you remember? Because obviously streaming was not a thing. The internet
streaming wasn't a thing. But
what
was crazy is I did have as early a version as anyone can claim that they saw that streaming was the future. I think that was where I was going. Because here's what was going on.
That's like more like 2012, 2013. Like
no, but this was 2007, 2008 when I was there. But here's what was going on then. Go to My PC was a very popular software that was being used mostly by businesses to create virtual group meetings. And then WebEx was a tool where you could, again, take virtual control. Virtual machines were really becoming popular. Yeah. And I was building a website called Chess Face Live, because it was Facebook and live. So this is crazy. I have the domain. I still have the original designs. And my idea was that Chess Face Live would be fully integrated with WebEx, and that people would come in. WebEx already had chat rooms at the time. The software did. And that you would log into a virtual lesson by a chess educator who would then provide at scale much bigger lessons than was currently available. Because I was like every other chess professional, running the gambit of going in and out of schools, barely making ends meet. But the gambit is you teach in schools, you scale that into group lessons like on the weekends and tournaments, and then you have private lessons where you're obviously charging more, but that's where you're kind of doing. And I was already doing that at a young age, and I was kind of watching what the internet was becoming, and so I educated myself to the best that I could as a young guy who was, as I said, trying to hold his marriage together and working multiple jobs. And I was trying to build a website that was built around virtual chess entertainment. And I wanted to do other things. I wanted it to be articles, lectures, and basically what would have been like the earliest versions of Chess TV. But I had no idea what I was doing. I was a total shit show, right? I had like hired this third-party development firm who was also outsourcing it to like another firm, and I ended up walking away from that. And this is now I'm transferring ahead, but years later, I was still trying to build this while I was working with Eric and Jay for the early on. But when we decided to launch Chess TV, which was literally the dream, and I had already built up, a pretty decent following and a lot of people who liked the videos and the articles that I was writing on chess.com, Eric and Jay and David, who was still there at the time, were kind of like, what are you doing? Like, you should just be doing this. And I'm like, you're right. So I literally walked away. And the most painful part about this is the whole thing cost me like 40 grand. This is money I didn't have. Like, I was like borrowing money. I owed people money. And to get like the last payment off the board, I sold my paid off Honda Civic to get like the last 10 grand. I got like 8 grand for it and had a couple thousand. I paid this firm and then like walked away from the whole thing and never got any of the money back. It was one of the dumbest mistakes I've ever made in my life. And it was so painful, but ultimately it was like, it was so obvious. And, the financial lesson was small in comparison to the other ones. And so anyway, but that was a wild time. But yeah, that was what I was doing at the early stages of chess, virtual internet, the whatever it was becoming. And then there's all the stories of what happened with Justin TV and Twitch and how we got this / chess moniker everywhere and kind of expanded our brand beyond just the chess.com domain. But that's kind of a longer story.
And at the start, you were competing with the Internet Chess Club and with Play Chess.
Yeah.
All these.
There were others too. Chess Park. I don't remember that. I don't remember that. There was Chess Cube.
Chess Cube, I played on.
Okay, Chess Cube. Yes. Chess Park. There was Red Hot Pawn, which is still around, I think.
That one's actually around?
What?
Can we look at Red Hot Pawn? Let's look at Red Hot Pawn. Let's see if that's still around.
There's no such thing.
You've never heard of Red Hot Pawn?
No.
They were the first major daily chess hub, correspondence chess online. That was their main thing, which is you wouldn't have played that. It still exists. Play chess online.
Red Hot Pawn.
Red Hot Pawn.
I guess.
Like Red Hot Pawn, sponsored to you by Red Hot Pawn.
Go play chess.
Red Hot Pawn. I'm telling you, Red Hot. So there were also Chess Tempo, which is still around. Chess Tempo was a big puzzles, and ICC had the far and away dominant market share.
Yeah,
for a very, very long time. We were a joke. I mean, Chess and Yahoo Chess was also.
Oh yeah, my brother played on Yahoo.
Yeah, well, we had competitors on both ends because even though we had this powerful domain, and of course, anyone hearing this podcast now is like, this guy's full of shit, acting like they were the underdog. We were the underdog. We were by far the underdog for a very long time, and we were.
I remember that.
Yeah, we really were, and we had to fight very hard to build a brand that had a reputation that was equal to ICC, while dealing with Yahoo Chess on the other end. Because our only way to really scale was to go after the beginner market. We knew that, but Yahoo Chess and a lot of these other sites had a lot of it. And so we were making sure we had a better, more welcoming product for the beginners.
But that's the problem. The product was not there in terms of
the product
platform.
was bad.
Like the platform was just stuck in the mud.
It was horrible. It was horrible.
You remember that?
Yeah. How could I forget one of the most humiliating moments of my life when Magnus literally said in the middle of a show that the pieces were stuck in mud. I mean, what we had to do to get our tech in a place where I feel very proud of it now. And obviously there are comparisons, as there should be, to chess.com and to Lead Chess and to other stuff. But I think we've gotten ourselves into a spot where I think there are debates about the style that people like with the board. There are ways that people compare it. But overall, where chess.com is versus where it was early on when we were kind of trying to get there, it's in a much better place. It was difficult for a lot of years.
I remember we had a call in 2013. There was a big group call. I don't know if you remember this.
Tell me more.
Well, it was probably like
early Skype,
like
Skype
10
days.
of us. Yeah. I think it was probably on Skype. Yeah.
Yeah, was what we did. We used Skype.
And you guys said, because I was skeptical. It was still people were using more other websites, or it wasn't so clear. And
I remember.
And you guys said, well, we have the domain, and that's our biggest.
And at the time,
that's our biggest advantage, which in hindsight was absolutely true. I mean,
yeah.
other
But
chess
that was the
platforms-
start of me trying to launch our ambassador program. I remember that call. We were reaching out to top players and trying to be like, give us a try. Like, we're not a joke. And it was very difficult to earn any stripes. There's a much longer story that a lot of this is actually worthy of its own separate book because it's in the book, but because of the story of my book being mostly centered around my childhood and then ultimately where things went with the cult. And again, I've probably already said too much of that story. Of course, there is chess.com. There's the founding story. There's a lot of things we did leading up to the pandemic, things that looked in hindsight like we got lucky, but in many ways what we felt we were doing to set up the creators network and kind of be in a position for whatever booms were coming. And then of course a lot of things did come in 2020 and 2021. So there's a lot of that story in there because that in hindsight, at least as far as the major audiences are concerned, not us in the chess world, are like, that's when chess changed, which it did. I mean, right, there was a lot of like major booms around that time. But a lot of these stories, like the years of like 2010 to 2018, 2019, are not actually in the book very much. Like the early buildings of some of these stuff and a lot of these relationships and a lot of the pain of being the massive underdog to ICC and not really being able to gain respect or traction. It's in there, but a little bit of like a Rocky montage where we have to really pick the highlights, because you can't, we just didn't have enough room. So if anyone cares about that, I guess don't buy the book because it's not in there.
Do you think that chess changed for the better in the past, let's say, decade?
Do you think chess changed for the better?
I'm conflicted.
Really?
Yeah.
I'd love to hear that.
So you disagree, huh?
No, I mean, I want to understand. I want to understand your view.
Well, I think that some things are better, and sometimes I think that like we see progress and we think it's always good, but it's not necessarily good. I think like when you popularize something to such an extent, it was very niche. If we're going back 10 years, right? The people who watched chess, they knew a lot about chess. They only watched chess. They were obsessed with chess. You didn't have the widespread appeal for the most part. I think that's pretty accurate.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially if we go back to like, let's say the world championship 20 years ago, which like, let's say the 2006 world championship, which got famous because of Toiletgate and got into mainstream newspapers, right? It was sort of the Magnus Hans
of
at
the
an even
time.
greater scale, just without the internet to really push it forward. But the people who watched it, they were mostly chess people, right? It wasn't that people watched it because they saw it on their algorithm.
Right.
Or because they know the name Magnus or Hans, but they don't know much about chess besides that. Or they know about, Levy. And now we have all of that, right? We have maybe the reach is 1,000-fold compared to them. I don't know, just throwing something out there. On the other hand, I don't know if it's always good that we have people who don't know much about chess, who are primarily watching chess, rather than having chess being watched by 90% by people who have a pretty good familiarity with the game, rather than, again, just throwing numbers out, but maybe 20% have a very good familiarity with the game, and 80% are just in it for maybe a week, maybe a month, maybe a few months. But that's where my concern is. Like, who are we appealing to?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of reasons to believe that the growth for the game has been good, and believe that we get more over time. The talent pool increases whenever you expand an audience, and even if that's not immediately felt. And of course, those of us living in the bubble, we are experiencing the growing pains. I acknowledge that, right? And they call it growing pains for a reason, right? Not growing fun. I think that players who are in this generation are experiencing, wild booms, cheating scandals, maybe online platforms that struggle to keep up with the perceived cheating and different things. I mean, you and I have a lot of conversations about the pains, and then, so we can talk about all those. And then the idea that maybe not everybody watching appreciates the quality of your work, let's say, right? But they're engaged. So I think I validate all that. But I would say that overall, two things. I think that more interest will lead to other problems the game had historically and even before the booms being solved, or at least have the possibility of being solved. For example, gender inequality and lack of representation has been a major issue in chess for a very, very long time. And we now see, I think, the definition of what it is to be a top woman chess professional having evolved beyond just the dynamics of are they as good as Magnus Carlsen. I think a lot of the most influential people in the game being women will ultimately lead to more women playing chess, which I think is good. So that's a broadening of our scope. I think you could say that regarding other minorities as well, others that lack representation. I think the more you expand opportunity, the more you get people who could have talent and could have upside in something that never before would have seen it. And that is ultimately, over time, with decades, like good for everybody. And then the third reason is actually just a very simple belief that I have, which is that I believe chess is education. And I believe education makes the world a better place. I think that most bigotry and or any type of discrimination comes from a lack of understanding of other people's culture, views, perspective. And I think one of the things that's amazing about chess is that it transcends so many of those, at least visible barriers. And it is a game that is in itself, because here's what I say, education isn't just academia. It is science and math and philosophy. Education is travel, it's music, it's food, it's other people's culture, and it's games. And I think that chess is good for people. I think chess is helpful for people's lives. Literally, it makes your brain better. I've thought a lot about this. And believe it or not, I mean, you know me well enough to say I'm not just, yes, I am the face of a very big chess company, and chess.com has done well. And I think we've done good things along the way. And I understand we've also taken criticism and hits in different ways. But I also really think hard about a lot of this stuff and about the impact that we have in a way that transcends the game. And I care deeply about it. And I genuinely believe that of all the games and all the access we have to a lot of things in the world, I think that chess is fundamentally better than a lot of choices and a lot of things out there. I think that it's been proven, at least there's chicken or the egg freakonomics stuff, but I think it is a cognitively beneficial activity. I think it fights off memory loss. I think a lot of people would say that, again, because of these things it does to bridge worldly cultures and to bring people together, chess is good for the planet. I've obviously said this tagline before, but I believe it. Chess makes people smarter, and smarter people make the world a better place. More knowledgeable people are more understanding. And I can't get behind an argument that says that the growth of the game is bad. That doesn't mean growth at all cost. Unchecked growth becomes cancerous. And I am 100% behind the idea that we need to be thoughtful in how we expand, and we should not dishonor those who've come before us or to dismiss the values we have, right? There's a reason we have both.
Yeah, my point was, and yeah, I do agree that chess is beneficial, for sure. It's good to play. I think it helps people. I think there's a bit of a caveat there in that, like, people who play chess and devote time to it, I think it's beneficial. Or let's say kids who start playing chess in school. But if you look at like a lot of the online, like let's say you go to a video of the last freestyle or the last world championship, do you actually think the majority of those people play chess, or are they just there to insult other people based on race?
But that's the internet.
Or sure, but is that, like, when we look at growth, that's a lot of what we see,
well, here's
right?
what I would say. Would you have as many schools interested in starting chess programs if there wasn't as much attention on the game, if we think it is good for kids, right? Would you have as many potentially new great chess players if it wasn't being exposed to groups and or being interesting to those groups? And with that, does it come with a bit of a profile that invites some of the worst circles of the internet? Yeah, it does. I mean, frankly, I deal with a lot of it. I deal with a lot of hate, and sometimes I read comments and people say things and like they literally have no idea who I am, and they make assumptions about things that are sometimes fascinating, and it's hurtful and it sucks. But would I take away those comments for the lack of opportunity, to go backward in time in terms of opportunities that I think we've created and that other people are creating? It's not just chess.com. Mm-hmm. We, the collective we, because of the profile that the game has risen to. Like, I wouldn't, I think in some ways we're young. I think in some ways our generation and our group is just a little bit young to this type of exposure. Yeah. I mean, think about what LeBron probably deals with. That's the thing, yeah. Right? Or Messi, right? And so I'm not saying it's good, but I think they probably get more hate on the internet than all of us combined. Probably. Oh,
of course, yeah.
So that I think that's. I'm trying not to lean. Sorry, I'm leaning over. You're good. But if I lean back and lose it, sorry for that. We broke the fourth wall.
No, like with the chess in the schools thing, I think it's interesting because I don't know the numbers.
Yeah.
I assume that there is more chess in schools and more kids playing chess. That's my assumption. Again, I don't know the numbers.
100%.
But I do wonder if that growth is at all connected to the growth of people watching the game. Like logically it would be, but when I think of the chess in schools programs, I think of chess in schools in New York. I think of the St. Louis Chess Club and their scholastic programs.
And there are many, many others.
And there are for sure others. But a lot of, at least those two, have no connection to the popular growth, because chess in schools was there when I was a kid, before the internet. And the St. Louis Chess Club, and
but the demand wasn't as high, right?
I mean, statistically, Fabi, it's just not true. I mean, there are literally more chess in schools and more programs being started in third world countries. And it's because of the content that is accessible. I mean, frankly, technology has shrunk the world in a very healthy way in this regard. I think that the tools people with less infrastructure and less access overall have to build chess programs in remote places and places of less means, like undeniably. And again, I think your view a little bit of the content and obviously the negative comments, and we'll call it the shit storms of the internet. I'm sorry, like they're out there, and some of them are preparing to comment on this video right now, and whatever they're going to say. And there's no world that is fun, but there's no world in denying the benefits. It's almost like, what is it? It's like with great power comes great responsibility. People choose what to do with their anonymity and their access to tons of information. Some people do good. I think most people do good, actually. And I think some don't. I think that it doesn't mean that all of that content is everyone's cup of tea. That's not what I'm saying. And as I already acknowledged, I think unchecked growth can become cancerous in any industry. And so you have to look at a tree that is doing really well, and if there's a branch sometimes that you're neglecting and it's getting tons of snow, like you go, all right, like we're gonna not focus so much on this, or maybe this isn't something we want to promote because it's not bringing the right attention to the game. I mean, I don't like all the attention that has come to the game, not just from scandals, but from other things. Like, so I don't even disagree with you that it's all my cup of tea, but I think it's not necessarily mine or anyone's to pick and choose, as long as there are certain values and like kind of benchmarks that you have that you follow as far as your business goals, your mission, and you have integrity in terms of how you're operating. A lot of people offer different types of takes and content on chess that I can't even relate to anymore. Like I see memes that I go, I don't even get that meme, right? And they're making fun of something. But I appreciate that the access and the way people want to engage with chess is different than maybe I want to, or maybe I thought of. And ultimately, it is undeniably, there are more people playing chess, more programs in schools being started, more opportunities. We are on a better path in regards to equal representation, I think, than we've ever been, even though there's still a long way to go as far as minorities in the game, talking about women specifically, but of course others too. And I think there's a lot of reasons to believe chess would not have reached those types of audiences without some of the growth, some of the booms, back to your original question, that have happened. And I think that's good. And I think it comes with some tough stuff. Yeah, that's my answer.
Are you talking about like reach when you're talking about like the development of chess in the last 10 years? Reach, or let's say the dumbing down of the comments of the audience of?
Well, anytime something becomes bigger, it's going to become less specialized, right? It's going to become a bit easier to digest.
But that's a good thing
by the general public.
And you cannot insulate chess from the internet, right?
It might be a good thing. I think it's kind of subjective. I was just curious.
I think here's an NBA example. You don't think about it because you don't maybe follow basketball or think about it the same way, but like go watch the way 99% of people consume basketball highlights. You know what they're looking at?
Yeah.
Dunks and threes.
Of course.
Steph Curry and dunks. And like, do they understand what the triangle offense is, or even what like the way that person became free because of a backdoor missed screen and this person goes to the basket?
I don't think there's anything wrong with someone who watches chess not knowing all the specifics.
But I think you're playing chess,
yeah,
and there's a lot of checkers, and the expectation though of that, or the thought that would be a bad thing, when like there's a lot of people who get into the game initially because something that they enjoy, some sort of highlight reel that is an experience that maybe make something accessible to them in a way that you didn't need that, or you didn't want that, or you were presented the game at a time and by a place, or had maybe a predisposition and an aptitude that was good.
I'm not looking at it from an elitist point of view. I don't need everyone to be a title player watching chess,
or to know the triangle offense.
There can be people who, or that. There can be people who are 800 who enjoy it. That's great. People who are 500 and enjoy it. I just think that a lot of it is also people who don't have any connection to the game.
Yeah.
Like they don't care about chess.
They're just here to throw a shoe in the comment section and see if you look.
That too. Or they just came because 3 years ago they heard
why
about
chess? Why would they choose chess in that?
Well, it could be because 3 years ago they saw Magnus Hans and
yes,
they got attached to that, and then every time
and they stayed with chess.
Every time there's Hans on the screen, they tune in, or every time there's not, they're like, I mean, you've seen the comments on any YouTube video. Where's Hans?
I try not to because most of them.
But like,
there are people who hate on me who literally like then if they get confronted on Reddit, they go like, I actually don't know why. I just think everybody hates him, right? Like literally, there are like I don't even know. Like I don't read comments.
Sure. It's probably healthier not to. But if you're watching a chess video, which I do, I watch it live streams when I'm not playing. Like half the comments are, "Where's Hans?" If Hans is not here, I'm not watching.
And they're saying that though because they're also a part of the
thing.
meme culture. I think a lot of people say it though because it's not even true. And you know what I've said about a lot of because I've given a lot of our talent advice, our streamers when they're dealing with negative comments, and there are so many amazing people doing hard work and I think delivering amazing content. And if you read chat, they don't like them and they say really mean things to them. And I'm not going to name particular names, people who get particularly volatile or extra volume of hate. But I also point out that like those viewers don't go anywhere. They keep watching. And when something starts to become like a meme, one of the weird things about chat rooms of the internet is everyone likes to feel like they're on the inside of the inside joke. And unfortunately, the inside joke is often like, we don't like this person. We hate this person. And that sucks. That is not isolated to chess. This is something that exists online, and it's a really sad state of affairs. And again, anonymity and all kinds of other things like empower it. But I'm pointing out that there are those who still watch, and they could go watch something else. I think that was Christian's point. They could do the same thing somewhere else. But chess has risen to some level of the zeitgeist of culture that a lot of people are interested a little bit about the world, even if they don't fully understand it. And that's not the end of the world. I think that overall, the benefits outweigh the costs. And it has been a very interesting experience to see some of that happen. And especially for those who are highly visible and have to deal with a lot of hate, it sucks.
No, I mean, I'll be honest, like it's better for me in general. I make more money than I did 10 years ago. There's more money in chess for the top players.
Not
on the other
for
hand,
you.
I think
there's more jobs,
there's more opportunities for everybody.
I
more
do
jobs
think
in
that
chess, yeah.
there is less money for some players, specifically people who are under, for example, 2720, or let's say under 2700, because we can argue that there's some players like Sindarov who makes like 50 grand in freestyle, for example, right? But I think if you look at a lot of tournaments, they've kind of fallen away, or they no longer have prizes.
But they've been replaced by 2025 is what on the calendar? Like, is there a free day?
They've been replaced by top events. But like
top
a lot of the open events that you know about, right?
Open events are
that I played back in the day. A lot of the Spanish Opens, the Catalan circuit, tournaments in Germany. Like there used to be more money, and so we noticed the money at the top because that's visible. But most people aren't going to see that this Open now, instead of a first prize of 10,000, has a first prize of 6,000, and also they don't give conditions to the players, which is actually I think a pretty common thing.
Yep.
Like.
But that's just the economy of.
We would probably have to look.
The economy of chess.
So the economy has
changing.
changed. It's like it's good for me and for other players who are.
But I think there's also there's a lot more revenue, whatever you want to call it. There's a lot more money in the game overall. It has evolved in
for
terms
personalities.
For personalities and for authors. There are more ways to make money than there was before, and for coaches online. I mean, like there are so many coaches you don't even know that are making high 5, if not low 6-figure incomes just coaching on chess.com. We know a lot of them. I mean, we don't take a piece of any of this, but we can track the amount of analysis boards shared and the opportunity. Like there's a lot of coaching online. There's a lot of people looking for lessons. So, I don't disagree
a small
that from
section of people, right?
But you're focused on the aspect of being a professional player in this comparison, which I would argue there was always a feast or famine at the top for players. Now, maybe the rating gap of where that line is drawn is different than it used to be. Maybe before there was more money in the open tournament
You were
system.
able to live as a 2,500 just by playing.
You were able
20 years ago.
Really?
Nowadays, you cannot.
Really?
No chance. Yeah, nowadays
And
you cannot.
what do you mean by
25,
live? Like make enough money to kind of bounce tournament to tournament, or like
more or less. Yeah.
So I think that
30 grand a year, let's say.
in Europe.
Which is an average salary in many European countries, right? Average salary in Spain or Italy.
No, 30 Gs is a bit too much.
I mean, I think
like nowadays you can probably make 30 Gs, but back in the days you were not able to do that. Like if you were making 1,500, maybe 2,000 every month as a 2,500, just going from tournament, that was probably
it's not probably the best career ever. But I do think some money drained away from those events.
Yes, absolutely.
As interest, and there are a lot of creators or YouTubers,
coaches,
Chessable,
authors. That's what I'm saying.
Coaches. There are a lot of people who have an opportunity to make money there, but I do think it's still pretty limited because if you think about YouTubers, you're probably thinking about 10 or less people.
It's difficult to make money as a creator and make real money for sure. I actually think more of the coaches and the authors, by the way, because I think there is a lot of opportunities there. At the same time, again, I think our views on whether it was the healthiest economy for there to be almost no real way to either not be a top 10 player or living paycheck to paycheck on the road as a chess player with no real roots and whatever, and then everyone else in the ecosystem, if you made it to 2,000, 2,200 or a low title player, you were quitting for a regular job. There weren't the same opportunities for coaches or to build a brand or to have a business. And so I would say, we're in the middle of this right now. And I think it's a fair point. It's one of the things we try to do on chess.com. And then we have to tackle cheating, right? It's like we're trying to give more opportunities, build meritocracies, as Hans has applauded us for, even if he doesn't use the term directly because he can't mention chess.com unless he's saying chess mafia. But the reality is Hans arrived in Vegas because of a meritocracy-driven event. What platform was that event played on? And who establishes those partnerships? And who creates opportunities to democratize the game? Even while we get criticized for not handling things, whether it's cheating or other things, like that is a big part of our mission and our goal. I don't disagree with you, but we're fighting the balance as well, which is fans tune in to watch the best, a very small group of people. There's a lot of other very, very talented, very deserving 2720 down to 2,500 players. We think about that a lot. We've tried to create an ecosystem that can support that more broadly. We believe that, we're figuring out the balance of that a lot. And it's not easy, right? This has always been the case. I don't know exactly how to solve the problem besides kind of what we're continuing to do.
I don't think it's necessarily a problem. I think it's just different. I mean, I just don't think that money has increased uniformly, let's say. Like, it has increased overall, and especially for top players, and for some people who have found a niche in whatever it is in chess, whether it's commentary. I mean, now you go to an event and there's usually like 10 commentators, for example. Or more,
only
right?
the big ones. Only the big ones.
Sure, not all events. Not all events. But if you go to like any freestyle event or Norway chess,
you're going to have a lot of teams.
Yeah, you have a lot of teams, which I also think is maybe not necessary.
No, but it's because they're offering commentary in different languages to different broadcasts. I mean, there's contracts with different linear programs, and so it's
the pie is bigger. There's no doubt about it. The pie is definitely
overall
substantially
it is bigger.
bigger.
But I do think that a lot of the pie goes in a few players' pockets.
Sure.
Or a few people's pockets.
Which what's the name of it?
So what should we do about it? Like I'm asking.
No, I don't know if anything needs to be done or should be done about it.
It's good for you.
Like it's mostly a philosophical point. I'm not trying to look for solutions because I'm not the one who can find them. That's not my expertise, right? So I don't know if there is a solution, if there should be a solution. Maybe it's going well.
Maybe there isn't a solution. I think there should be an effort toward more meritocracy-driven events, more democratization of the game. I completely agree with Hans about this. I would actually be in favor of rating deterioration if we want to get into that topic. I think there are reasons that we should try to create open, transparent qualifications, not cherry-picking invites, and not continuing to live in the world of feast or famine. So if anyone wants to clip and ship that, Hans and Eamon and I we probably agree on every single word that just came out of my mouth right there. And it's not just because of Hans. We have been trying to do this before it was cool to do it. And we ran in and have continued to run into difficult problems. And there are two of them particularly. Chess.com has always led with events as a loss leader to serve the professional community, and occasionally events help us grow the pie. Most of them don't, but occasional events will grow the audience, top of funnel, right? World Championships, PogChamps was a hit. There are some others. But we have done it as a loss leader to serve the professional community under the belief that the professionals serve ultimately as ambassadors for the benefits of the game. And that is a part of the business model. But I'm being serious here, right? So we've done this. And then we've tried to invest in events for all title players. I mean, we were criticized heavily early on for even changing the definition of what a title player was by allowing NMs and CMs and FMs to be a part of Title Tuesday and beyond, right? And there are risks that have come with that. There are different, anytime you expand the pool, there are more scale of cheating. We deal with that, whatever. But we're not talking about that right now. I'm saying that we have tried to do what we can to provide more of a meritocracy. And if I had my way, we would continue to do that for the World Championship cycle and other things. But it's hard to do that when fans really only want to tune in to like the best of the best of the best.
Sure.
Right?
I think there is an issue when it comes to if you're making a qualification for everything. I think it works great in many sports. Might not work great always in chess because you just have too many events. Like let's say my calendar this year is basically packed. I don't know how many games I play, but I'll play from January to December.
It's a lot. Yeah.
And now if you had to qualify to every single event, you would be playing every single day of the year.
Mm-hmm. It's like tennis, by the way. Tennis is crazy like that.
Sure, yeah. But I think in tennis it helps that like they have some major events and they have some less major events. And you kind of know what they are. And in chess,
as a fan, but for the players, a lot of them don't, what they have to do to fight to make sure they don't get paired with Djokovic in the first round. A lot of people in the middle class. I've talked to professional tennis players, and we've talked with a lot of folks on the media side of that. Like it's a very grueling environment that you don't know because you only tune into center court at Wimbledon. And I say that guilty, it's the same thing, but it's actually not dissimilar. And I don't disagree with you, by the way, that I don't know that qualifiers have to be for every event, but I would argue that for the biggest prizes, meritocracy and transparency in regards to the path is important.
But tennis also does have a ranking system along with qualification.
Yeah.
So they
also very similar to chess and ELO.
Very similar to what chess is currently, right? Where you have ELO that qualifies you to things and also individual qualifiers.
But it also changes every single year, right? So
yeah, that's true. I mean, chess is just not uniform in any way. You have, let's say you have FIDE events that are qualifiers. They change all the time. We could talk to Emil as well. I'm sure he would have.
I'm sure he'd listen. I'm sure Emil would be super open.
I mean, I don't think that everything they do is bad. I'm not trying to criticize them, but to qualify for the candidates last year, at some point I just killed myself for like 3 months straight. I went from tournament to tournament and played 2 games a day and everything, and that was because I thought the candidates.
You went full Goichberg.
Pretty much, yeah.
You went full Goichberg. Yeah. 2 games a day.
I know that some people are thinking, "Oh, okay, you're complaining." I mean, I do this 365 days a year.
You play a game for a living. Get over it.
And there's some players like Jay Bonin.
Oh shout man! Can we give a shout out? This podcast is now officially brought to you by Jay Bonin fans,
who plays 1,000 games a year, or at least at some point did. Or Korneev, who I think is the leader in FIDE. He plays like 40 games a month.
Is he really
in Spain? Yeah. Oh. He's always in Spain.
But when you're also like trying to qualify, it was tough. I mean, I went through that. But imagine if you had to go through that every year for every event. Like for freestyle, suddenly I have to do that, and
but you can say no.
You can say no.
It's too much. You can say no.
But in tennis, it really helps a lot that you win a tournament, you make $1 million, right, let's say. And in chess,
because the interest is higher, right? The sponsors are.
Yeah, but it's like in chess, you can't always, for pretty much the vast majority of people, you can't just say, I don't want to play this because it's too much. For most professionals, there's a chance at $50,000 or a guarantee of $10,000, then most chess players just have to. Right? There's a few who can say no to stuff, but it's maybe like 5 to 10 people in the world.
I mean, we're still not at the level of popularity of tennis or any other.
No, of course. I'm just saying that's the difference. I think that's the difference between the two sports.
And I think there's a lot of differences too. I mean, we listed a lot of similarities. I don't know how much we want to get into that. I think there's a lot of commercial differences, not just in terms of the product itself, in terms of what you're viewing and the difficulties of translating chess to larger audiences versus ball goes over a net, I see score change, and I'm not degrading that at all. I think that there's something. This has been something I've talked about and tasked my team on the broadcast end. It was like, we're going to crack chess with no sound, everybody. Which is, you watch tennis, you watch basketball, ball goes across, you see different colored jerseys, ball goes in net, score changes. Basketball without sound in a bar even if you were a 3-year-old, like you start to figure it out. And I have been like, we're going to crack chess with no sound. Like, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the eval bar. Let's talk about adding visuals. Let's do what we can to bring things to larger audiences. And I'm telling you, like,
Do you
we
still
are
think
not.
that's possible?
I don't know. We're not there. We've worked hard on this. I have a lot of thoughts about what can still be done. But before we even talk about the product itself, I mean, there are market differences fundamentally to tennis and chess. I'll just list the most important one. Inventory to the consumer is very different in sports, where you have to buy a new racket every year, balls all the time, gear that you're wearing, headbands, bags. The commercial value of the players in that sport and what they use and what they endorse is very different. So if you're talking about the reason you have more of the market competing for that is because there's consumers who are in many cases affluent, right? Disposable income, they're educated, and they're interested in what the best players are using. And guess what? They have to buy shit. You know how many chess sets you have to buy? One in your fucking life, right? And it's a nice wooden one from Staunton, right? Or whatever it is.
Or a rubber one.
Or it doesn't matter. Or whatever
It's
that
also
crappy
gonna
thing is you have over there. I don't even know.
That's an art piece.
Okay. So it's I'm just giving one example. It's the same in golf. Golf also swallows a lot of their cards are loss leaders, meaning they don't really get viewership at scale that reaches sponsored. I know this. I've had conversations with people in the industry until the featured card. That's when viewership is peaking, which is why it moves from the Golf Channel to CBS and you see the featured card or the Sunday, whatever. Why? Because the audience, they can swallow the loss leader because you're talking about buying clubs and balls and experiences that people pay for in golf and tees. It's a cultural investment in a way that, like, there's more money exchanging hands from consumer to the industry. And like chess has an uphill battle here. We lack things that are attractive to mainstream. Now, I think there's a lot of reasons that we could be more attractive. There's a lot of things I wish the top players would do. There's a lot of things I think that the broadcast can do differently, but I'm not going to get on that soapbox and whatever. But I think there are some uphill battles, and there are reasons why we haven't been able to crack into those types of commercial dollars and that level of support.
But the commercial dollars will only go to the viewership, right? And the viewership is only going to be interested in what Fabi plays, not what Christian plays, because Christian is 2,500. Fabi is like one of the top players, right? It seems like we're having, and you were mentioning about the main card, right? UFC, MMA. It's exactly the same problem. The guys on the prelims are getting nothing, right? And nobody's watching them. The same can be said, and that's actually a problem that we've had in chess, and a lot of people have been raising this question. How do we make people interested in anything outside of the elite of the elite? Like, how do you get people to watch the World Women's Championship, for example? And this is something that
But there's
WNBA
no sport, right, where you have this. Like, people in tennis, they care about a handful of people, a handful of players. People in basketball, they care about a handful. Well, I mean, there's
team
teams,
sports
so
have
it's
done a better
different.
job because they
tennis
bring,
is a
which
bit
is one of the
different,
reasons
I
I've
would
always
say.
been bullish on esports potentially and team idea. Esports is not the same as professional sports, but we ran the Pro Chess League for years, and by the way, I love that event. I miss it, and I wish we were still doing it. Long story, but I've always been a believer in the potential of teams for chess. The Olympiad is such a great event, and I think if you get people cheering for something that is about more than an individual player, you can cultivate loyalty and legacy that is now about the color of the jersey and not about the face anymore. And that's essentially what people are doing in sports. You know, they're rooting for the jersey. It's a very hard thing to do in such an individually dominant game. And I think, as I told you at dinner, I'm optimistically indifferent I try to be, because otherwise I get too much of my self-worth wrapped in it. We're not going to get into my childhood. I try not to be like out over my skis in terms of predictions or whatever, but I think we will look back at this time, frankly, as the beginning of whatever chess is evolving into and can become. And that is not an end of chess as we know it. I think that we're going to figure out more and more with time how to build audiences and maintain audiences so they don't just tune in for the 2018 World Championship and I'll see you in 2 years again. That was just what happens a lot with user behavior, right? I think there's a lot to do here, and I think we'll continue to figure out how to tell better stories, how to create events that can be more of a meritocracy, more transparency to qualification systems, while balancing the very difficult problem you pointed out, which is that no one owns chess, and no one can stop a new league and a new league and this thing and this thing and this organizer, right? And so in some ways,
one of the issues that we have
crazy.
too much, and we have no structure in chess.
And again, that's the advantage of owning the IP if someone did. Like, the NFL doesn't own football, but they created value around the IP of their product, right? The World Cup doesn't own soccer. FIFA doesn't own soccer, right? No one owns chess, but they managed to create value around a particular cycle, a particular IP, and that has sort of transcended what people think of.
Well, this is sort of FIDE's job. I mean, FIDE doesn't own chess, but they own the infrastructure around the World Championship, the classical World Championship, which is what most people watch. That's their most valuable product. That's the most valuable product in chess. It's the classical World Championship. No matter what anyone tries to create, it's remained that, right? At least for the time being. But FIDE hasn't managed to monetize chess to a great extent, right? They have the World Championship. It's what everyone's aiming for. You can make $1 million. You can maybe make 2 million if they find the right sponsor. But that's for 2 people, right? One recurring person and one new person, and it's every 2 years.
Well, there's a whole ecosystem around it.
But there's no money outside of the World Championship.
What do you mean? Not really.
I mean, in the FIDE events. Which event?
Okay, FIDE events. Yeah, sure.
No, I'm talking about FIDE events because that's where everything else is a bit of chaos.
World Cup.
Yeah, the World Cup. If you win
the whole cycle.
If you win, you make
candidates.
I think 90.
There's money in the candidates.
Yeah, if you win. If you don't win, you usually lose.
If you don't win,
you usually lose money because nobody goes there without trainers.
That's kind of what I'm saying. The ROI is actually, other than the World Championship, even the World Cup. I mean, you think about the amount of time invested. It's not the same as
But that's one of the big money makers, or let's say 2600s. The World Cup. If you qualify that, you go through
when you say big money makers, you mean like people who lose in the first round and get $3,500 or what?
That's
not a big money maker. That's because we realize that chess players make no money, and so $3,500.
But so your point is that was the point I was trying to make, where I just disagree with the comparison to 20 years ago. It was better. I think
no, but the World Cup was there 20 years ago too.
That's my point. Yeah. I'm actually making the same argument that I just don't. I think we are in a better place now. Yes, we have the same dynamics we've always had of it's a feast or famine culture. The opportunities, the pool is bigger. I think we have seen a lot of things progress. We have not solved the fundamental problem that other individual sports in particular do struggle with. That's how we got into tennis. So I'm just kind of summarizing our conversation here. We have a meritocracy and then a what people give a shit about problem in chess. You want to have a meritocracy and people only care about these top 8 guys, right? Or whatever it is, 16 guys. And this is a problem. And I think we are continuing to try to solve it. I do rely on our ecosystem, even though I do agree that ultimately this should be FIDE's job. I think that I focus on what I can and where we look at chess.com, which is providing more opportunities broadly, expanding the definition of title player to help create more paths to pro, because I think when more people see they can become a pro, they stick with it. We tackle problems of cheating at scale. We tackle other problems in the process, but overall, that is our goal with chess.com. That is kind of what we're trying to do.
How do you guys see yourselves at chess.com, in the whole ecosystem of chess? Because a lot of people are thinking about chess.com, especially nowadays, as this entity that's trying to monopolize chess, more or less. And we can get into that. The chess mafia. Okay, whatever. You can call it whatever you want. You guys have bought some companies throughout the years, and obviously that brought its own discussion. How do you guys see yourselves as in the ecosystem? What's
the big question?
Yeah.
We see ourselves as a platform to play chess and a service for people who want to get better, fundamentally. That is what we see ourselves as. We have always believed in events to serve the professionals and where we could leverage audiences to grow the game, right? And by leverage, that sounds like maybe a bad word, but leverage the moments that matter, as I've called them. Sporting events are ultimately about FOMO.
Sure.
Fundamentally, that's where a lot of the big advertising dollars are going toward, because they know that people will tune in when they have fear of missing out. Chess doesn't have enough of those events. That's why we need better stories. Other than the occasional FOMO that people get around chess events, which isn't that often, chess events are a loss leader and they're a service for professionals, and we think it's good. And it's where I came from, being a failed child chess cult prodigy kid. I'm always going to believe in that. Yeah. And so, but no, we see ourselves fundamentally as a platform to play chess and to learn. we would much prefer others to sort of solve the problems and or the dysfunction of the things that we've been talking about for the last 20 to 30 minutes, to be honest with you. We would love for our online events to serve professionals and to, shrink the world, if you will. We talk about shrinking the world with education, shrink the world in terms of opportunities, where if I had my way and everyone was earning, a lot of professionals were earning $1,000 online somehow via a combination of chess events and whatever, I would love that. That's not possible because there's too many people that that we're trying to figure out ways for that to be the case, but we never wanted to be an events company. Now that we have some cool events that we're really proud of, like the Speed Chess Championship and others, we try to deliver an amazing product there.
But you guys managed to sort of create this aura, for a lack of a better word, of still owning the event, even if you guys are not necessarily organizing it, because you're putting on the show for the most part. Like you guys send your teams, and it's an official chess.com broadcast, and that's what people see. They don't see the organization, let's say, behind it, but they see the show that you guys put together. So that kind of makes you a part of the over-the-board chess as well.
Yeah, and that's fair. I think that's part of our model in terms of what I would check under the platform. There's like
you have a lot of influence. We do have outside of the internet, chess world.
Yeah, our brand has become synonymous with chess for a lot of people, right?
Sure.
And I think the domain has played a big part of that. We've been fortunate with that, and I think we've invested in a great product around that. I would argue that the product is good. And the way we've tried to develop relationships with organizers is, hey, we do happen to have the largest audience, and it is, it's a big one. And if you broadcast on our site, you reach that audience. We've leveraged tools to help the creator ecosystem grow, which happened early on when we kind of started doing it with Twitch and the embed for viewership and to help people who were on a chess site. It was a big gamble initially to let people on a chess site leave a chess site because we were embedding YouTube and Twitch under the idea that we were taking our users away. But we played the long game and kind of figured that if someone's interest in chess goes up, all roads will lead back to Rome eventually. So allow them to leave. It was actually a very big internal kind of battle as we built out the ecosystem there. I know I'm not fully answering your question, but I'm kind of describing the philosophy that got us here.
Sure.
Which is like a platform for play, a platform to learn, a platform to then the third thing was like serve the professionals, and they help check those boxes. And then what happened in the middle of that was as the audience grew, and frankly, we became kind of the market share leader, we became the partner for everybody, because why are they putting on a show if they don't want people to watch it? What a lot of people don't know is that there are many shows who use our platform and have our logo on, and they ask to put it on. It adds some value there, but we're not the broadcast. We're actually not. It's just on our platform, right? And there are obviously different levers of that. Like the freestyle team is one that we've had a more robust partnership with to try to help, at least in these early stages, and we hope to continue and hope that continues to be a good thing. We'll see where freestyle is going. It's a larger discussion, right? There are partnerships like the EWC where we're providing the full qualification path, right? Because like we're kind of the only ones who can really do that for them. But in many ways, the platform itself became a tool for organizers to reach audiences. And then what I always say to them is well, if you don't have to work with chess.com, but also like a lot of them put on a show because there's a philanthropist who's funding it, and they want to reach people. They want people to see their vision. There's things they talk about, and like so. They want to reach our audience, and so we provide the tools for that.
One thing I've wondered is why has chess.com acquired so many other chess companies? For example, Play Magnus Group, of course, but also Chess Bomb and also Chessable, which I guess was part of Play Magnus Group, right? But,
Chessable was part of that.
But a lot of different, you've taken over a lot of different things and kind of, I guess, turned them into chess.com.
Each one of those has their own specific reason. So there's no global strategy for chess.com to like acquire companies. M&A was actually never something we wanted to do. We acquired, the first acquisition I think we ever made was actually Chess Vibes with Peter Dockers years ago. And that was because we wanted to have better news. And we thought we were basically acqui-hiring. We basically acquired Chess Vibes to hire Peter. So that was like what we did. Chess Bomb was a tech hire because we wanted to have an events viewer and we had none. And Chess Bomb was interested in the partnership, and frankly, it was a way when you make an acquisition, there are like three reasons you make it. One is talent, the other is tech, and the other one is audience. That's like kind of just the business sort of triangle normally. And there can be others too, as far as increased monetization opportunities. You could argue that Chessable that's under that thesis, and I'll talk about that in a second, which is also, I would argue, an increase to give back into the ecosystem. But those are the only reasons any company acquires, right? Talent, tech, or audience. We're not really in a business of acquiring people for audience because we have the largest audience. The only reason we would ever do it is if we thought someone has amazing tech that kind of speeds up our ability to get there, or if they have amazing talent. So when it comes to PMG, it was kind of a combination of all those things. Like they had probably the biggest talent in the world named Magnus Carlsen. And we had never had a relationship where Magnus was working with chess.com. And the theory was 1 + 1 could equal 3 or maybe 5. If we were working with Magnus with goals to grow the game, that makes sense. Chessable is it's a combination of tech because they had the course technology and kind of the space repetition stuff they had built. And they also had an audience and an ecosystem of kind of the a la carte marketplace on top of our subscription business kind of made sense, which was we could add courses for something to people to invest in chess, their education. And ultimately, we still have the theory, there's a lot of things being done right now with chess.com/courses and some goals we have. I mean, I'll be honest, the product really isn't in a great place, and we know that. We're working on it. Our thesis is that if we figure out the right way to motivate people to learn that opening course by Fabiano Caruana and deliver it in a timely manner, that our audience is literally 10,000x what Chessable could ever be, and that we have the potential to double, triple, 5x the amount of revenue flowing back into the ecosystem. Yes, chess.com will make money on that, but ultimately we actually think that there's a real world where courses and the idea that premium members want to buy a few opening courses a year is actually a fantastic thing for everybody. And we think our scale can do a lot of good things. So that is actually the hope. Okay. That was kind of the main reason we did the acquisition, were those 2 points, were Magnus Carlsen and Chessable. There were actually, do you know that PMG had 13 companies? A lot of people don't know that. We have actually divested like all of them. We have given back New in Chess. We have given back Everyman Chess. There are many others that they owned all of Ginger GM's content. We gave it all back to Simon Williams, and there was iChess stuff, whatever. Like, and I'm not saying that like, in some way, like, that but it's all altruistic.
iChess disappeared, right? For example, iChess just disappeared, didn't it?
Well, we paid revenue for a while on this. I actually don't even know where iChess is at. I was
like reasonably sure it disappeared because I know that a lot of people who were in the process of making iChess courses, they were told to work with Chessable.
Yes, and I think that is a part of it. I think that is what happened. And I don't know where the legacy content lives, actually.
I think it got converted into Chessable.
Yeah.
And well, okay, that's anyway, probably a minor detail.
We're not in the business of trying to run every chess business. We are not.
Do you feel like you guys are becoming a monopoly at this point? And do you think that could be a problem?
I do not. And I can say that what a lot of people don't know is we've already been investigated for being one. Mm-hmm.
That's what Cromnick is basically hinting at right now.
Well, I mean, Cromnick is not launching an investigation, nor is he actually filing lawsuits. Well. He's not. I mean, Cromnick is screaming into the abyss of social media for attention, but there is no lawsuit that has been filed, and there is no actual claims, just so you know. Mm-hmm. If there was, I would know. So there's not even anything to respond to in that regard. The Department of Justice investigated us when we made the acquisition, and they actually found out several things that are like just non-starters. I think people throw around the word monopoly, again, back to like, education. And I don't mean this term to sound, defensive, or in some ways this term itself is a term used to sort of disparage people. But, ignorance by definition means lack of education or information. And I think a lot of people throw out that word because they're ignorant as to the meaning or as to what it actually means in the market. And there are many things about this. One, barrier to entry. Nobody owns chess. And this isn't like a comparison of, you say that, but Lee Chess is smaller and there's other chess sites. What people don't understand, that Google and Meta and Amazon and any of the big ones, if you want to call Microsoft or Apple, could do to the chess market, if you think about what chess is worth and what they're at, when you look at the barrier to entry for a major player to enter this space, it is like 0 to 60. Our market is much smaller than people think. That's the first thing that the DOJ established very strongly, is that no one owns chess. And not only that, Chess.com doesn't even own their premium product. That makes us so disruptible. People can literally, because you don't own the fundamental game or the PGMs within it, we can't even protect against someone copying our features like game review or other stuff. And so what I try to help people understand and educate on this is that actually the reason we've reached the market share we have is because we've done a really phenomenal job building a product on top of something that's free. And I've said this before, people go, you're monetizing something you don't own that's free. And then other people in business go, damn, you're monetizing something you don't own and is free. You must understand some shit and have done some really great things with that product. Otherwise, how could you have possibly reached the market share you do? So here's the deal. Barrier to entry is 0. Barrier to entry to disrupt our premium product is 0. I mean, I think as Hans actually said when he was interviewed by Dina, it was funny for him saying it first after calling us Chess Mafia to go quickly to, at first it'll be free and then we'll monetize later, right? As if like the goal is to, he hopes to do the exact same thing, right? And then the last thing I would say again is that what people don't understand about the creator ecosystem is that not only do we have a much more symbiotic relationship with creators who drive subscribers have a piece of that revenue. The affiliate program has paid out millions. And Levy Rosman would probably never say what he makes passively right now as our top creator. And I'm not flexing on the other ones who are competing with him. Love Hikaru, Botez, Chessbras, others. Levy makes a lot of money on premium memberships on chess.com. They have a piece of the pie. So it's not like a small thing. That's not even talking about the millions of dollars that Chessable has created as far as revenue for authors in the ecosystem, right? So what I would say is there's actually a much more symbiotic relationship there than people think. But further, if you look at the revenue that the creators are bringing in, and this is the last thing that the DOJ realized, is that they make their money on YouTube and on Twitch and on other things. There actually isn't a world where someone couldn't leave chess.com and use another platform and actually put their livelihood at risk in the way that you think. They could.
Speaking of disruptions, do you think endgame AI, I think that's the natural progression to this one. Do you think they have something to offer? Have you tried their product?
I have not used their site.
You have not?
No. I've seen the hats.
Uh-huh. I don't have one.
And I've heard Hans talk about it. I have not. Have you played?
I haven't gone on their website, no.
Yeah. Anish has.
I know.
What do you think the chances are Anish is already on their payroll? Anish Giri on the Endgame AI payroll and hiding it in his sneaky way that he likes to dig into controversial conversation on Twitter and poke the bear. So Anish, I'm curious how long you've been on the Endgame AI payroll. So.
Pretty high.
The chances are probably high. I don't care. And good for him. Frankly, that good for Anish. If it's the case, I have not used Endgame AI. These kind of questions put me in a spot where if I say that I don't consider them a threat, I sound arrogant or in some way, whatever. But also, we are the market share leader. There are a lot of chess sites. There are a lot of great places to play chess. Mm-hmm. And if they build an amazing product, then awesome. Chess.com and Lead Chess have the best platforms to play on. If Endgame AI enters the arena, let's go.
What's your relationship with Hans nowadays? Are you guys, you said you're buddies, but are you really buddies?
Oh, no, I didn't say we were buddies.
You said it like a few minutes ago.
I said we would be buddies
of course,
around the topic of
as
meritocracy.
A joke, of course,
yeah.
A joke.
I think we would agree on that. Hans can speak for himself. The relationship with Hans is super complicated. I think it's much more, what is the right word when someone is holding a grudge? I think Hans is much more whatever it is, begrudging or and angry. And for those who, are sympathetic to what he's been through in the last few years, including me, you understand why. Like, I understand why. I also have gone over this many, many times. I talk about it completely openly in my book. I think people might be surprised on not just sort of the behind the scenes story of what really went down, not just on September 4th, the last time I was here, but everything that followed. And they might also be surprised in regards to the level of, I guess, I wouldn't say regret, but I have nothing but sympathy for all the parties that were involved. I think it was much bigger than all of us ever intended for it to be. And if I had it to do over, there might have been areas where I wish it had been handled differently, right? But as far as my relationship with Hans, I mean, Hans benefits from the narrative. Hans benefits from the narrative that he is still being persecuted. It is not true. if we're talking about present day, regardless of what happened and regardless of people's perspective, which I share a lot in my book, and regardless of what chess.com did, and whether people agree with the action we took or not, let alone what Magnus did, when things move forward and an agreement was reached for Hans to rejoin chess.com, not only has he been treated more than fairly along with everybody, he has had every opportunity to qualify. He just competed in a Magnus Carlsen owned company. The only thing left that he can add to the claims, the conspiratorial, idea that there's some sort of blackballing of him going on exists right here in this city of St. Louis. But I think Hans knows very well that his relationship with the club has nothing to do with chess.com. It has to do with his own actions. And he has his theories on that and his perspective. I've heard of videos. I've heard of evidence of what damage he actually did versus what he presents and projects. I've heard of things about his relationship in terms of, how he speaks and how he treats organizers and how he deals with people that people don't like. And I think if Hans has issues with organizers, he should deal with those organizers directly in the relationship with them. Because when it comes to actual evidence and what's actually going on, Hans just won Freestyle Friday. Hans wins Title Tuesdays. Hans plays in every event possible on chess.com. Hans plays in events that we are partnered with. Hans plays with Magnus Carlsen.
I think at the moment there's definitely no reason to claim that chess.com is persecuting him.
Yeah.
But if we go back 3 years, you said that you might do things differently.
Yeah, I might.
Is that
maybe not? I don't know.
Is that because of how it played out, or because you think that it wasn't handled in the most ethical way?
No, I think I wish we had more time to communicate more effectively with Hans. I think communication is the key, and I think given how it went down in St. Louis and how I had just left, and the fact that we only had 2 days after the Sinkfeld Cup before the Global Chess Championship was starting, we didn't have time to properly unpack or handle it in a way that I probably would have. But what people don't know is that we had many reasons to do what we did that had nothing to do with St. Louis. And while the volume was turned to 11 against our will when Magnus did something that, by the way, I advised him and Henrik not to do. If people think there's a conspiracy, in fact, the opposite is true. I told Magnus I thought it was a bad idea.
What chess.com did was exclude him from the global, was it called the Global Chess Championship
afterwards,
at the time? After Magnus.
But again, I share all of this in my book. And I believe that we had more than enough evidence, even if I don't like how we got there. We've talked about this. We've stood on the truth that every word in the Hans Niemann report is true. And frankly, we're talking about it now, which is unfortunate. It remains a big topic of conversation, but I don't like plead the fifth or say, oh, it's unfortunate, poor us. Like, I have to talk about it. I get it. It was a big deal. I don't have a choice. But also we spoke on all of this in the Hans Niemann report. I explained our perspective. I explained that we had evidence and that we had, when it comes to cheating, it's not as black and white as people would think. And when it comes to someone's past, it's not as clear cut as people would think. And Hans continues to perpetuate, at best, a shortened version of the truth, really just lies in terms of his level of cheating. And if anybody knew what was really going on with the relationship with him and what was happening, they might have acted the same way I did in my shoes. They might not have. But what I do know is there was no conspiracy. There was no abuse of power. There was nothing more than we were in a crazy vacuum, and the amount of things that were going on behind the scenes were explosive. And we did the best we could. And from the moment it's been, as you said, settled and agreed, any claim of persecution is only in Hans's best interest. To one, rally his base, right, who are commenting right now in the video, no matter what I say, and to perpetuate some sort of goal he has as a businessman to call us Chess Mafia while trying to launch a site that hopes to one day replicate the same business that chess.com has, and claim blackballing that is conspiratorial at best and just lacks no evidence, right? And so there's nothing I can really say to it besides I actually love seeing Hans on chess.com. My personal relationship with him would be fine if we had an opportunity to talk from my perspective. If it isn't, that might be more of a Hans problem than he wants to admit. And this has been wild, and I have a ton of compassion for him as a kid. And I also stand by that, it was the wildest thing I was ever a part of. I wish we had more time to think through things and to communicate more effectively at the time. That's what
accelerated. this whole process of you guys basically just banning him, the report and whatnot? Who accelerated? Was it Hans just giving those explosive interviews immediately after?
I mean, we literally talk about this
was,
in the report. I mean, we said like,
what was
he had a history of cheating. There were a lot of things
online.
coming.
This is
online,
only online.
Online, yeah. And our event was online.
Yeah,
right. That's the domain with which we operate and the risk with which we take all the time. You know, and some people think we do a great job. Some people don't think we do a good job. Everyone, I think, who knows and talks to us about it knows we're doing our best, whether you like the job or not.
Did your report, because I read it, but it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Did it also point to the possibility of over the board cheating, or was it just online cheating?
You should read the report again. I mean, honestly. It's a 72-page report. We literally said there is no determinative evidence to believe that he cheated over the board. We also said that Hans's trajectory that took him very quickly in a short time period is one of immense talent and has him, when compared statistically to others, operating or executing at a level that should make him like one of the best talents to ever play the game. That no one has ever gotten that good that fast. But we also determined very clearly that there was no step function in the data, which is indicative of cheating when it comes to how these sort of, you know, not just in terms of cluster statistics, but when you look at the data aggregated and how it works, there was no reason to believe that anything had happened. There was no evidence to believe that. And so I'm only saying that because you guys are grilling me about something that I'm totally honest about. It's literally written. Most people who are commenting angrily right now have probably never actually read it or seen what we actually shared. And I acknowledge that with more time, you look back at something and go, man, if I could have flown back to St. Louis, if I could have had a conversation, I might have actually handled it with a different type of discretion. It might have gone down differently. But also, like, I stand by the fact that at the time, as we serve the best players in the world, it did not serve the best players in the world with our events to not act, given that person's history and given what was happening. I stand by that.
Has your mind changed in the last, let's say, few years with Hans obviously posting pretty good results?
No. Nothing has changed about what we did or how we view it, because we said we didn't think he cheated over the board and we think he's a talented player. We said that in the report.
What about, just to make it like a broader issue, which I think is pretty relevant, question of what to do with people who have cheated?
Yeah.
Because you give people second chances, sometimes third chances, right?
No, not anymore.
Not anymore.
There's only been a few people who got third chances, and they were always young kids, and there were unique circumstances. But no, we've never given third chances as a policy. Yeah.
Do you think that you should be giving second chances at all?
Do you think you should give second chances at all?
I think in an ideal world, assuming there aren't legal boundaries or obstacles, then, I mean, speaking only of chess, of course, I'm all for second chances in life.
Are you?
But I think that the problem with second chances in chess is that there is no punishment. It's not like when you give a second chance, it's usually that the person never gets found out, they never lose any money, they never face any disciplinary action, and they just
you know
go
we've
on.
changed this policy, right?
You've banned titled players this year, right?
This year we've banned roughly 90 titled players, and 53 of them have been public, and the ones that haven't are minors on their first chance. Would you ban a 15-year-old for life if they cheated in casual play, Fabi?
Not in casual play.
Would you ban a 15-year-old for life if they cheated in a Title Tuesday?
I think that my policy would be that they would have to return the money.
Okay.
All the money they've won.
What if they haven't won money, but they cheated in a prize event? And they're, again, a minor. They're a kid.
I mean, I would probably give them a second chance, but I would have to think through the policy as a whole.
What you just said is our policy. So we're on the same page. That's literally our policy.
So I know of a case where a non-minor won money in prize events this year and was also banned. Did that person get?
Who is this person?
I don't want to say that.
They're banned publicly, so you can say it.
They're not banned publicly.
And they're back on chess.com? Or they're banned?
Maybe we should keep this off the record.
Well, I'll tell you our policy, because I stand by it, and it's been very difficult to arrive at a thoughtful policy. because you're trying to consider not just the right way of punishment, but the right opportunity toward rehabilitation. Just like in the court of law, you can have a crime on paper that is exactly the same. And when this person is before a judge and jury, there's a reason we have the structure we do, because the human beings in the courtroom judging the level of remorse, the explanation, the circumstances, in some cases, like, the difficult life the person has had, whatever the human beings are doing in that courtroom to hand out community service for one 15-year-old and 4 years in juvie for another is based on a human experience. And to be honest with you, I am not comfortable operating in a world where I used to do all of these cases myself, including Hans Niemann and many others. I'm a dad, and I'm just a human being who doesn't believe that people don't have the right to learn from mistakes. I'm not comfortable operating in a world that is black and white and that doesn't allow an opportunity to hear the case out. That said, and let me finish this, because I think in some ways your perspective is justified based on what we were doing. And I think if you actually hear our policy now, and I tried to say this before, but like when we were talking, and I don't know that people fully appreciate that, I've said on record that I think, I act like this isn't on record. At some point, the level of opportunity and the money in the game got so big, talking about cancerous growth, that we needed to review our policies. And the reality is we were slow on that. I think we were slow to make change and to get more aggressive and to provide more transparent punishment. Again, you remember where we were at, Fabi, 10, 15 years ago? All online chess was considered casual fuck around chess.
Sure.
And it doesn't mean cheating was good. We all grew up in this world, guys. Like, it didn't mean it was good. It didn't mean we liked it, but it was a different world.
Cheating existed, but it also wasn't as damaging.
It wasn't as damaging, and and there wasn't as much stake. So no, we're all agreeing on this, and I'm saying so. We're
like,
on
remember
the same
back
page
in the day, they had the ICC Dos Hermanos tournament.
Totally
with money. And people cheated. People cheated in those.
Yeah, and I know some people who cheated in that.
Strong players, grandmas. Like, it's part of human nature in many ways.
We're agreeing on this, right? There's no, and so what I'm acknowledging is that we built policies that were based on probably like more liberal forgiveness. Like, we were very lenient than we maybe should have been, based on kind of a culture that expected us to be. And at some point we got, I think, really good at it, at least given what we could get good at it. And then the stakes started going way up, right? The motive was out of bounds with like the punishment, right? The reasons to cheat became about more than even prize events. It became about the creator economy, it became about status, right? Sure. It became about vanity and rating points. They mattered, right? And so we did not move quickly enough to be where we're at now. But here's where we're at now. And I don't even know if you know this, but every prize event, anyone who cheats in a prize event is banned publicly. Minors have an opportunity. Minors are the only exception. They have an opportunity to confess and serve their first one with a large, very, very large ban, which for a young person does matter when we're talking about a year or two ban.
Okay. And
the one other major change we made that people don't know is it used to be Danny accepted a confession with an email. Guess what? That got us in legal trouble eventually, just in the sense that, not that it wasn't binding, it was binding enough for us because we wanted to forgive people and welcome them back. But in the end, people can say things that, oh, this email was this, or, I think there's an article that makes it very, shared that Maxim Delugi, whatever, claimed like, basically the dog ate his homework and some kid was helping him cheat, whatever. People can say that they wrote things in emails, right? And there's an article about that. They can go look it up. So we have now moved toward prize event bans that are public. You don't get a second chance. You're publicly banned. Minors get a chance to confess, but no matter who confesses, whether it's casual player, minors, I'll finish.
What do you mean by publicly banned? Like,
it means the account.
Do you announce it somewhere, or do you just put like a ban for fair play?
The ban is no longer a shadow ban like it used to be, where the account was like frozen and it didn't log in.
So you haven't shadow banned, like chess.com hasn't shadow banned any GMs this year?
I don't think so. I think since we changed the policy, we have not. Maybe some young people, possibly. I'll have to check on it.
Can we just go off the record for like 1 second?
Sure.
Okay.
Was one of the most successful players this year in Title Tuesday. Hasn't played an event in like 5 months.
There's a reason we did this.
Uh-huh.
You want to know why?
Yeah.
because his cheating occurred before our policy change. I just had my last conversation with, but I need you to acknowledge it is actually consistent with our changes. Because here's why. We actually made this change in the terms of service. And when you do that, you can't legally backtrack predating the terms of service. Because if we do, we can get in trouble. Cheating occurred, and there was a run of Title Tuesdays that were egregious, and we ended up going back and investigating. And because he cheated before our policy changes, we closed him under the old policy. That's why.
Are you sure that his cheating wasn't? Because he was like beating me this year.
He's a very strong list player, but
I'm sure he is.
The data we closed him for was.
Okay.
Are you guys okay with putting this with beeping the name?
Sure.
So that they understand the explanation.
As long as you really make it clear that it's beeped.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I hope that he is the last GM we close anonymously. I hope. There may be other investigations that happen in a post-review because we're always doing our work on that.
When it comes to Title Tuesday specifically, if you had to just estimate in each Title Tuesday a percentage of people who are actively cheating in that tournament in 1 game or 11 games, whatever it is, just ballpark a number, what would you say?
I mean, we've written this online. You and I don't agree on this. So
I just want to, maybe it's changed because this is probably going back that we've spoken about this.
We've also seen less cheating since we rolled out Proctor, partly because we've also seen less participation because people who don't get it done right, then the numbers are going back up again. So it's hard to say. Honestly, like you should check online because we publish this. We have seen it fluctuates somewhere between 2 and 5%.
Can we just take 2 as a lead into a question?
Sure.
Let's just take the low end.
Yeah.
I was actually going to be happy with 1 because let's say 2.
Yeah.
And let's say a Title Tuesday has 500 players. Is that fair on average?
Yeah, usually has more. But yeah.
Okay, I don't know. Maybe we can take 600 players. So let's say it's 12 players in a Title Tuesday are cheating. If we're taking 2.
No, it doesn't mean 12 players. I meant 2% of games.
Oh, sorry, 2% of games.
So someone will cheat in a game. It doesn't mean 12 players are cheating.
Okay, it could be 12 people cheating in 1 game, or it could be 1 person cheating 11 games and one other person cheating once.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, which is actually a very important distinction.
It is a big distinction for sure.
Mm-hmm. It's huge, actually, because
it's obviously huge because it could be the difference between 12 and 120, right? Mm-hmm. In any case, do you think that? Let's just assume that it is, let's say, 12 games.
12 games total,
and it could be 3 people, right?
Sure,
that could be a fair amount. Do you think that is an acceptable amount, that it's okay to run the tournament? Or do you think that the tournament is damaging if you already have that level of cheating in it?
I obviously think it's an acceptable amount because we're running them. And I think the net benefit is phenomenal for the chess world and the chess community. And I think we also close roughly 12 title players a month. And we're now doing it publicly, which, by the way, has only been going for 5 months now. So if we're talking about the fact that some Title Tuesdays will lose the battle on the way to hopefully winning the war. And by the way, you didn't let me finish our policy changes because I think that's important. I think acknowledging that the growth was potentially on its way to being cancerous, that the tree limb needed to be cut. The policy we established of we're going to be this level of forgiveness and this liberal and even help people rehabilitate in a way that put us in a position where people felt like we were covering secrets and we were providing no accountability. I'm saying all of that with full acknowledgement, and I'm saying that not to get credit, though I think I deserve some. I'm saying it to acknowledge that we have thought a lot about this and then tried to arrive at a policy that can still be compassionate and practical to the situation, compassionate to minors and practical to the scale and to what we're trying to do. So let me say again that now that we are closing people publicly, again, we've established the one exception you found. By the way, you're very astute, although that wasn't maybe a hard person to find if we think about it.
I have other things that I'm less sure about.
Okay. And I would bet they all fall under the same category, that the cheating occurred before our policy change, just so you know, because we are doing it publicly now. We have no reason not to. And we have close and bigger names who are threatening to sue us. We're actually doing it publicly. It's not a policy we're continuing. If you cheat in a prize event, you're closed publicly. If you cheat as a minor, you are given the opportunity to confess. But the third thing I was going to say that is really critical before we got into this is that now, instead of Danny's emails being binding and people being able to then, say whatever it was, that they were coerced or they made up the story, whatever it was, you have to sign a document. You have to sign a legally binding document that acknowledges what you did and that you are on your last chance account. This has fundamentally changed the process, and it has fundamentally changed some people who refuse to do so, and they can go play on another site. And that is actually huge when you consider chess.com's position and what we're building with ecosystems and all this stuff. And so I'm actually acknowledging, I think we were too late on this, but it was a tough problem to solve. And I think that if you give us time on where we're going with these new policies, I think people will be more scared. We have lost some battles, some PR battles, some whatever along the way. And I think some of them were deserved. I think some of them were not, my honest opinion. But I think that some of the criticism and the PR battles we lost around us not having a handle on this were deserved, because what we were lacking was providing accountability. You were right. And we needed to be more aggressive here. And we're doing that. And I think as long as we're doing that in my world with some compassion guardrails, we will still have a judge and jury. It does matter how the person confesses at times. It does, and sometimes the length changes on that, but they still had to sign an agreement now. We're trying to protect our site. And we're trying to protect the players, but we're also trying to be fair and compassionate. And also, I don't think all cheating is always equal. I think prize events.
No, I don't think that is.
So anyway, I guess I think we're more on the same page about how we got here and that we needed to change than you think. I think there are individual cases that are hard to crack, as you know, and there are times when it can look like some people think certain cheating happening and we don't. And that's a larger discussion that we probably shouldn't get into, because that will include individual names and there's no need to. But I think the policy has made good progress.
Let's talk a little bit about that without going into the details. But what's the threshold that you guys use on average to ban somebody? Like,
this is without debate. A threshold that we can sleep on at night is we are ready to go to court, and we are certain, beyond certain. Because when it comes to statistics, there are only levels of certainty. You are never outside of the world that I lose sleep at night over that person's name because that person refuses to admit, even though I stand by the team's investigation. I stand by the threshold we established. I stand by that if this person who we were just talking about took us to court, that we would win. And so I supported it. But I actually lose sleep at night over that one because of who that person is and what I don't want to say more, because obviously I'm implying the potential, I think. I struggle over all of these, and I stand by the struggle because we close people when we go to court. I am not comfortable with Vladimir Kramniking this, where his literal argument is that you have to accept a certain amount of innocent deaths. No, I don't agree.
Well, and I think that's fair, that you shouldn't be throwing people under the bus.
Well, it's not even throwing people under the bus. It's like it's acting in an irresponsible way that would be, frankly, irresponsible to the data and the track record we've established. So the answer is, like, the threshold has always been the same, which is I'm ready to go to court and we would win. And when we make mistakes, so the couple we've made, they were statistical mistakes. One of them was actually a manual review misinterpretation of the data. One of I always think of the two big ones that changed our approach. But, like, we're not operating in a world where there's a certain, in some ways, I guess you are, but I guess what we're accepting, what would my director of fair play say? He would probably say something like, we're accepting a 1 in 10 million chance. I guess I am accepting that.
But do you still think that is too
aggressive or too
not aggressive?
Lenient.
I don't know if lenient.
No, because I really only quote that statistic because it's kind of an unrealistic statistic.
I think you're trying to be a bit too picky, because I understand there's the one approach where where you're accepting some innocent deaths, but there's also the other approach where, to make sure that there isn't the 1 in 10 million, you allow, let's say, 100 to go free. Probably not 100.
No, but I don't think it's the right way to look at it, because I think in this case, every individual person and case should be considered in a vacuum. And you either believe it or you don't. And we have a staff of amazing grandmasters who put so much effort into this. We have a staff of amazing statisticians. We have boundaries that we've set up that are practical and compassionate, and also penalties that needed to become harder. That's why I was combining the word punishment and penalties. And every case should be considered like it should be in the court of law. Like, you should be given, your like indictment by whatever, the jury of your peers, and it shouldn't be based on circumstantial evidence or a broader evaluation of whether we haven't closed enough murderers today. We haven't put enough people in the electric chair today, guys. Like, and this is not how this works.
But let's say there must be some cases that kind of stump you. Like you think someone is, you're not sure. Like your personal view. Like you think someone probably is
For
cheating,
sure.
but you can't be sure. And
But I stand by the process that we
see
have.
those every week.
Yes. No, I mean, we stand by the process we have on that because we put a lot of effort into it. And there are people who you can bet your whatever, what do they say? Bet your bottom dollar or whatever. I have an old man phrase to say that we watch those cases very, very closely. And if it was that obvious that there was a threshold of data, it would mount with time. And at some point we would be able to act. And so,
does it ever concern you that the algorithm just isn't good enough? Or the method to detect someone isn't good enough and that's how they elude you?
first of all, everything concerns me. So of course it does. 100% it does. It also concerns me that our interpretation of the data could be wrong on both sides. So the same reason I lose sleep over someone who I think is an amazing player who refuses to confess is the same reason I'm concerned that the algorithm may not be good enough to catch cheaters here. I live in self-doubt. Honestly, I'm being real with you. I also trust the team. I trust their intentions. And we work really, really hard on this. We are closing people. It's not like I'm saying this and there's no actions being taken or that there aren't people being closed who are threatening to sue us and whatever. I mean, so part of me says we could talk about this forever, right? Because the reality is there are probably people cheating in spots and getting away with it. There are probably more people being closed for cheating than you're even aware of, because it's not like you're reading our article every month. You have a bit of a predisposition to think maybe we're not doing enough.
I do follow some of the closures, usually not in names that I'm super interested in.
And I don't even know that I have a predisposition to defend it, other than I have a predisposition to at least know that there is progress being made. There are actions being taken. And there's a gray area that I choose to sleep with at night, knowing that it's not a blanket, I'm letting this many cheaters go. It's everybody in a vacuum today was someone who I stand by innocence before proven guilt. And then I go to sleep. And then I wake up and I do it again. And everybody in a vacuum that day was evaluated. Some of those MFers were closed. Some of them weren't. Everybody was given actual effort, and you go to sleep in a vacuum, because that's how it works. You can't operate. I refuse to operate in a different way. Our algorithm has gotten better. Why do you think we just had that conversation of closing someone who was... do you think we go back and review cases for shits and giggles? We go back because we're trying to clean up and then do everything we can to protect, and we were already suspicious. But guess what? We didn't have enough data. And then we have a breakthrough. We're getting better all the time. We have 30 people on salary who live in the fucking data research department, and we review OpEx all the time and go, do we need all these people? Yeah, we do, because they protect the game.
There were a few high-profile cases last year of people who got banned and then maintained their innocence and even wrote publicly. I think like one of the most you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, of course. You have to tell me he didn't cheat?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I have no...
Okay.
I mean, in general, my opinion is that people are cheating.
Right, so
not to say any names, it's just in general. Yeah. But I don't have any skin in the game, let's say, in that one. But my question is not really like, are you sure? But more, how do you convince people that they should also be sure that the person you closed, who's a grandmaster or let's say a top player. I mean, I don't think that's the case that a top player has been closed, but let's just say it happens. And then they maintain their innocence. How would you ever reassure the public that you actually could possibly know without giving details of your process away?
Honestly, you can't ever, first of all, you can't convince anybody of anything they've already made up their mind about. Just to be very clear, and I think it's really important that we establish that most comments being shared on the internet are those within the 10% minority on either extreme. This exists everywhere, from politics to chess Reddit to everywhere. And I say this because 80% of the people in the middle, most of the time,
that's what drives engagement.
Know what you're doing, respect for what you're doing, also respect that you're probably doing your best and that there's information they don't understand. Like, seriously. Then there are the 10% of the people who hate you no matter what you say, and then the 10% of the people who love you no matter what, who are just as dangerous. So first of all, to be clear, most of the time when we're having this conversation, you're asking us, not you, but someone is asking us to defend against something that it's very hard to have a conversation with, especially when we are not going to open up the algorithm, right? We're not going to do that for the greater good, to be honest, because there are areas where the algorithm struggles more than others, right? And so you have to be careful about that. And so to some degree, I would answer it in the same way that like you have to let your track record continue to speak for itself. And okay, like there's all the fantasies people have about whether some believe Hans Niemann won his case versus us, which he didn't, and we all agreed to move on, and I'm not allowed to talk about the terms of it. No one is. Ultimately, that case had nothing to do with cheating. It had to do with defamation, and his claims of conspiracy, which, by the way, were dismissed in a federal court with prejudice. So nothing happened there. Like to that note, we have never lost a case on this, despite a lot of claims. We have a very strong track record of closing title players. We also have a track record of being accused of not doing enough. And we have a track record of some in a vacuum who think we do too much and lack transparency. I get it. It's hard. It's hard, honestly.
I just want to be clear. Like although I've probably accused you of not doing enough as a website as a whole, I also have said personally to you on many occasions that I don't know if there's a solution, right? I've said that many times.
In this case, I was actually just doing the left hand, right hand. I wasn't totally, but I appreciate that. And you and I have had a lot of thoughtful conversations about this thing, and it's a tough thing. I can't minority report this. There's a moral lesson in that movie in terms of what happens when you're trying to prevent crime. I wish I could. I can't stop people from doing bad things. I think that there will be people who have perspectives on both ends of that. And the amount of times we live in crazy aggressive lawsuits or parents doing this that go away and or later admit, that is worth its own book. It is crazy. And also so then the last thing I would say to the extremes of it is we can't reveal everything to people who think we're acting in a power vacuum and not showing enough. We can't do enough to convince people that we're not doing enough totally, other than in both lanes, our track record speaking for itself and continuing to do our best with that track record. And hopefully along the way to losing some mini PR battles, we ultimately win the war against cheating. And again, I acknowledge in summary, we created our own monster and created our own problems by not having policies that I think reflected the market or the amount of cheating or the opportunities. I think we are actually in a better place. And I think we're trying things that, like with Proctor, and we should talk about that because I know Danya talked about that, and we definitely mismanaged that. And a lot of criticism Danya had was fair, by the way. And so I do want to talk about that. But yeah, you can't argue with that, especially when, there's just no way for us to provide all the information people want. But in the end, I'm sorry, and I really will shut up, Christian, is that in the end, not just our track record, we have to just continue to act with integrity. And what is integrity defined for us? Some people may not like us, they may not, but you know what they can argue with? We're acting within our terms of service. So you may not like it, but you think you're suing us, this person. You were closed to a policy you agreed to. We have to protect ourselves with liability, with terms of service. Ultimately, you are agreeing to play by our rules and on our platform. And I understand there are people who scream and don't like that, but every platform has their own terms of service for a reason, because you're trying to give yourself the best chance to operate in the gray and to do what you think is right. And I think we are, and I acknowledge we can and maybe could have done better to get here, but I think there's been a lot of very good things too, but right now I'm not here to talk about the good things we've done. I'm just talking about this problem, and this is a big problem, and I appreciate you guys hearing me out.
We should talk about Proctor, as you mentioned, which Danya, we spoke, just to give the audience a bit of background, we spoke to Danya. He uses the Proctor service, but not all the players that play in prize events do. And he complained about a number of technical issues regarding it. And also, I think one of his gripes was that he uses it, but other players don't. And so it's a kind of an unequal playing field in that sense. But it's something that your website uses to prevent or protect against cheating.
Yeah, and we should talk a little bit about why we want to use it or what our goals are with it.
Mm-hmm.
Great summary. That was really good. Sorry, I'm just teasing. We're just having fun here too.
We are, yes.
Life is too short, guys. We're having fun in life.
Sure.
This is all meaningless. Remember that.
We're having a chess cheating discussion. Of course, it's meaningless.
Everything is no. I mean, life is full of meaningless, and you make your meaning. So here's the deal. Danya's criticism totally fair. You should know that we had already been in a lot of back and forth with Danya, obviously before he was on this podcast, then after he was on this podcast and different conversations, of course. And it's not that it needed Danya to be outspoken for this to be happening, but Danya, similar to a fire being lit, sometimes when there's a public PR scandal around cheating, like you should know that there has been a lot of performance review happening around Proctor. And this is a top priority because his criticism in regards to it not being up to snuff is fair. And we are not going to accept rolling something out that isn't, when it is rolled out again, it will be universal for all players, or we won't roll it out at all. That's where we're at, because it can't be a performance thing, especially for some individual players. So that is happening, and his criticism is fair.
Well, the problem is that Fabi already said that he's not going to play under the current rules.
Yeah, I was kind of going to ask this question based on my own view, but I wasn't sure. Maybe it's a petty point, and maybe I'm the only one.
Yeah.
But like, let's say Magnus and Hikaru and I and some other, like Ali Reza, all tell you they won't play under Proctor, and now you have a choice between doing what you want to do, rolling out Proctor, or accepting that we all don't play.
Yeah. When Proctor is ready, we will say goodbye to you guys.
Okay.
Hikaru and Magnus are already using it, just so you know. And Danya, actually, I was going to get
Magnus
to
is using Proctor?
Magnus has
Isn't
used
he like
it.
occasionally just playing on his phone or something?
Because it isn't universal, but he has used it. When it is required, he will.
Okay.
And he has already been required at times, just so you know. And so has Hikaru. But now let me talk about Danya's experience, because he's not wrong. And by the way, I think I'll give you some time to answer this. I wonder how you would answer the question for someone who cares so much about cheating to believe it's a fair position to take, that you would not at least try something once before denying it, by the way. That seems like a pretty dogmatic.
I can give you my answer. I think it's a fair answer.
Okay.
It's because I don't, like, honestly, I don't respect the tournament.
So you don't care about Title Tuesday?
No.
Okay. Well, then that's
But not
fine.
just that I don't care. It's like I'll play it because I want to maybe try a new opening, like for a personal reason, not because but when I play the event, I do feel very often that it doesn't have integrity. Like it's not free from cheating, which I might be totally wrong, but that's my feeling. That's my intuitive feeling when I play. Early on, I'll play someone I don't trust. Later on, I'll play someone I don't trust.
I feel bad that that's the story that goes on in your head. And I want you to know, I'm sorry, but when we roll out Proctor, then you won't be playing on Title Tuesday
that's
or in
totally
any
fair.
events on chess.
I mean, I won't complain about it.
Yeah.
That will just...
It won't be in any events. You won't be playing in SCC. You won't be playing in Title Tuesday.
I do it in those other events.
And just to be aware that, like, one, I do think it's an inaccurate story you've told yourself. That's my position. And I think once we have a story, it's very hard to get out of it. But I also don't agree that if you're not even willing to try something, I don't even think that's a fair perspective, because you're asking someone to argue with a religious, dogmatic point of view before you're even willing to consider the information. So I'm going to get back to the story about Danya, but I think you should think about that.
But it's not based on, like, me not wanting to use Proctor is not connected to that. It's not that I won't try it out.
But if Proctor is the tipping point based on some sort of stories you've heard that other people have had with Proctor.
No, it has nothing to do with that. It's just because when I play Title Tuesday, I do it because it's a convenient way usually to try out a new opening. Okay. But I don't find, or because I want to play a bit of Blitz online, but not because I feel like I'm playing a real event. So when it comes to another event, like let's say the Champions Chess Tour, those events usually I feel like I'm playing a real event.
And so you would use Proctor there?
Yeah, well, I've already gone through the security measures for years with those things, right? I've also played with in-person proctors for events that I...
What if using Proctor was a lot easier than you think, and the security measures for Zoom and all these other things were actually more obnoxious than what Proctor is going to be? What if Proctor was actually an easier, more convenient solution, and that what you're doing right now is taking a position without even knowing?
But it doesn't have to do with Proctor. It has to do with the event. It has to do with Title Tuesday.
I think
maybe my
your position
is not clear, but
would you say that your position in relation to Title Tuesday will change once everybody plays with Proctor? Once, let's say, the conditions improve in terms of...
I would have to look at the event. I would have to look at the event from the outside. Because also when I look at the event from the outside, I do feel like cheating is on a massive scale. That's, again, my personal opinion. Could be wrong, but I do see it like pretty often. And I could show you like individual results. We can on our own time.
You have, And we've agreed on some and we've not agreed on others.
Sure, yeah.
But
also it's not like something that it's personal to me, like I lose a game and suddenly I'm upset, I also look at it from the outside and I do feel like I'm not looking at a real chess event. I'm looking at some sort of hybrid. Like some people are cheating, some people aren't. That's my feeling. Could be wrong, again. But when I look at some other events, I usually feel like they're more clean. So if I ever got to that point where I felt like Title Tuesday was a clean event for the most part, then I would be willing to go through some sort of measures to play it. But otherwise, I'm not going to put myself through a circus. That's the only thing.
Again, the measures will be easier than you think. You will make the choice that you do. Title Tuesdays may be a more important part of the future events ecosystem in the EWC than you think, and you will make that choice. And you will make that choice with Team Liquid, and you will make that choice with whatever floats your boat. Let me get back to Danya's story. So his criticism, totally fair. The product needs performance improvements. We are working on that. And that's not like a quick thing to dismiss. It's ultimately the most important thing because, as I was saying before we got into our very healthy discussion, we will not roll something out that isn't required for everybody. And I won't settle on something that I feel like the performance, at least, I mean, if everyone's equal, at least from a fair perspective, I'll know it's fair. But I don't want to roll something out that feels bad. So we are on it, and Danya's criticism fair. The only thing I wanted to say about that, and because I've talked a lot with Danya back and forth, is that the timeline he laid out was accurate, and what broke down was just communication, meaning Danya has been a full staff member for almost 2 years, recently took a step back from broadcasting, wants to take a break, but he's still a full Slack member on chess.com. He goes in and out of channels, team members ask him questions, different things, right? And so when we were rolling out Proctor, I want to say Danya did volunteer. In fact, we were incredibly grateful, right? He was super cooperative to be one of the first people because he cares about this, and he said that. He opted in. Then when March came around, we did think we were closer. We thought we were imminent to this product being ready. And we ran into massive performance reviews when we started facilitating more streamers and realizing we needed to make the performance better here. And there were other things too, but I'll save the dialogue. What really broke down was we should have pulled back, told Danya, thank you for being awesome as always with your service. You know you're not someone who were worried about cheating, chill, and whatever. And we should have spent more months going back a little bit further in beta stage. You know what I mean? We didn't. The communication got bad, or it just didn't happen. So before you know it, when you add that lack of communication to the fact that we were several months behind, and the fact that we have now done more thought in the last couple of weeks to realize that we may not need it for every event. For example, it may not be needed for bullet events. And if those are the events that have the most performance risk based on the speed of it, there may be reasons for us to be, we are reviewing the policy, and we're not going to operate in a blanket world that isn't good or that isn't thoughtful about it. And I think the Danya conversation was super helpful. And the last thing I would say though is, and this is not because I know we've had a long podcast, I'm not going to ask you guys to respond to this, but I think it is a thing to just ask yourself that, how would you roll out something from 0 to being 100% that is so critical that to the chess world that doesn't have a beta stage? Like, how would you do it? How would you scale it? How would you bring in title players of the world's top profile versus this? At some point, you do have to have a rollout policy where some people are going to be on it, trying it, helpful, maybe some more willing than others, and some aren't. Like, the reality is rolling it out. Again, if we had more time, I would ask you guys to really be thoughtful because product roadmaps are a real thing. It is tricky. And at some point, you do have to commit to bringing in some people, reviewing the performance, iterating, improving. Okay, let's try it again. Let's try it again. That's a thing. And we messed up in doing that with the communication. And ultimately, that's what led to that feels bad conversation with Danya. But just so you know, his criticism was fair. And I think we are going to be in a good place.
So what's the end game with Proctor? Because right now it feels like, or at least, the rumors are that it's clunky, right?
Yeah.
What's the end game? No pun intended.
The end game is that it'll be supported by AI.
With Proctor.
Okay. You didn't get the pun there?
I get
there you go. I was helping you out there, Hans. The end game is we want Proctor to be a tool that integrates incredibly efficiently with the Fair Play Ops team. Fair Play Ops team, Fair Play has 3 different departments. The data and research, which is the core of the algorithm, the detectives who are doing the review, a lot of title players, the ops team, which are doing the hard work of proctoring people, observing in real time, running data in real time at times. They're kind of with the detectives, they're qualified, but that's what's going on. Right now, the ops team has a super clunky process of multiple zooms, multiple cameras. This system while not being any safer than anything else when it comes to preventing sophisticated cheating. Remember, if someone has a secret device and a second gunman, that is a tough world. We rely on data, especially in Blitz. That is a little bit of an advantage that makes it easier to do what we do in faster time controls because it's harder to perform in a certain way than it is in classical, but that's another discussion in terms of what the algorithm can do, or what it was built to do. But the goal of observing someone in real time, where videos timestamps are archived, we can immediately go back and align data with the timestamps. This isn't like a manual process of trying to chase down Zoom screen caps and screen shares. You know what I mean? We're tracking everything, and we have footage, and we have a built-in robust dashboard in our admin that allows us to quickly compare what was going on with data as well. So it does make us more efficient. It does give us a better record of everything that happens. In the end, the heavy lifting will always be done by the algorithm. And in the end, if someone has a secret device with a second gunman, you could argue, well, as hard as that is to stop, at least we have a bunch of different cameras and timestamps going versus an over-the-board room. I don't know what people are tracking in there. And apparently it can be hard to do that. So I guess what I'm saying is cheating is a problem. And I can't stop bad people from doing it. But Proctor itself, endgame, will be integrated with Fair Play Ops. It will not be clunky. It'll be something that everybody is expected to use in prize events. And it'll be hopefully something that improves the experience and deters cheating in the end, at least a little bit.
So I have a problem with cameras because I feel they're obsolete at this point.
They're what?
Obsolete because of wearables, like glasses, for example. That you're never going to be able. You're never going to be able to detect a small camera. Right now, maybe you can. You can.
What is the difference between that and over-the-board chess?
Oh, it's bad for OTB as well.
Yeah,
it's really bad.
But in over-the-board chess, you can scan people, which is what we're doing in most of these events.
Well, also remember,
Online,
none of this changes that in our highest profile events. Physical proctors will still be assigned. Some will be random. Some will not be so random. And none of them are the big chess fans you used to deal with in 2019 who let you go to the bathroom and didn't ever wonder what you were doing.
I mean, I'm not going to bring up the case from 6 years ago, which obviously isn't relevant now.
But that is an important point.
But to get into that a bit. So let's say you have all these protections that protect against certain things, right? Whether it's the algorithm or the proctor. But I think it's fair to say they probably can't protect against a really strong player with sophisticated cheating device like smart glasses, which is not too sophisticated anymore. I think you can buy them for about $300.
The only thing that can is our data.
Sure. Yeah,
only
data.
But like if I start wearing smart glasses, you're not going to be able to.
The cameras
if your DNA changed with time, we could not right away. You would be able to cheat in spots for sure. But with time, we might see a difference in your. Again, we have a fabi chart. We have a distribution of your.
Do you really have any confidence that if my results improve to some extent,
if you did it, even if it was inconsistently consistent over time, we would see a change in your DNA and the way you match up and how you play.
And you think that you would be able to take action based on that?
Eventually, not right away. And you would obviously get massive benefits of doubt because of who you are, and it would take a very long time. So
what's eventually like?
I mean, depends on how often you did it, how aggressively you did it.
Like 5 years?
Because I've had results.
Not that long.
I've had results where I basically win every game, right? I've had results where I play like shit, which I'm sure you can probably see a pattern through all of it.
Yeah.
If I started to win every game, that would be a massive change. But if I started to
good change, we'd all be rooting for you.
Well, apparently not. if I started to have maybe 2% more in results, which maybe turns into 200,000 a year.
That's an extreme.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
It very often comes down to a few games, right? Very often comes down, especially in matches. Matches are usually very close.
Knowing when to cheat and then cheating in those specific matches consistently, as far as again how we would look at that would be like, wow, really interesting to see. Like we're seeing a bit of a bump suddenly in rounds 7 through 9 by Fabiano. Let's look at the last 5 events where it was consistently those rounds, and let's actually run the data and his sort of strength score, as we call it internally, which is how closely you compare to the engines, mixed with a lot of our secret sauce. Wow, Fabiano is cheating in spots, and he thinks he's getting it away with it. And you should ask, I think the peak person we closed was number in the world, and you should ask was there, and number and then number. And just so you know, like, you think you can get away with it more than you can. And ultimately, people who really do this, man, they don't just do it one time. And so you would try to do it in spots, and we would see a pattern because we can isolate the data, and that's what we're doing. And so I'm not saying, I already acknowledge that you would be given massive benefits of the doubt because you deserve it. And we think you're clean. And you have a very long track record. But in some ways, your long DNA track record would make it almost easier for us to spot, like, what the fuck is Fabi doing? And all of a sudden, like, why is this really just a run that is happening here? And when you isolate it, ultimately, we can't prevent cheating, like I said. And I wish I could stop the bad people. And the sophisticated way to have a second gunman, very hard to stop, regardless of over the board or online. But your results and the amount of games you played in Blitz and what you would have to do to cheat in spots to successfully move the needle in a prize way would be harder for you to hide than I think you think.
I think that, well, again, this is very speculative, probably on both of our sides, because, yeah, you've closed some top players. I also think that with any degree of caution, I would get away with it forever. It's my honest opinion. Assuming
I'd like to try.
I mean, I don't want to try it. Like, my opinion about this is that even if it's done in a fair way where you kind of know, but you try to catch me, I don't want to do it because I think it spoils my integrity as a whole. Like, I just don't want to use an engine during a game. That's my opinion.
I was about to make a joke, but that my team would be mad about because it might reveal something that we do. But okay, off the record, I'm going to tell you.
But I think I would get away with it, personally.
I would hope you would, because I would never want to close you.
We can do it together, then.
We can do it together. Okay.
But I think also the second gunman is not necessary. Like smart glasses just do everything for you.
Have you ever used those things, though?
I mean, they're going to get better.
I know. Yeah, you're right.
I haven't used them.
By the way, wait till we talk about chips in the head and all kinds of stuff. No, dude, I don't deny that the weapons are evolving. We cannot stay ahead of the weapons.
But they're already pretty cheap. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, but I've also used a lot of them are shittier than they try to project on Twitter. By the way, it's harder. But they will get there. They will get there. I disagree that I think currently to do it at a high level and do it well, you do need a second person, or you need some sort of relay. The second person doesn't have to be a chess player, but you need I think to do it really well, you do need to right now. But the devices are not far behind. Like I'm with you on that. And data, I think we have to continue to get better with our data, and we're trying to. There are areas where we're trying to tease out more big wins and smaller amounts of information all the time. It's hard, and I don't know that this is ever going to stop being a conversation. But yeah, and then just back to it, I just want to finish with we do have big goals for Proctor, trying to do something that we think is answering the call, like the accountability of increasing the punishment and the transparency as a call. We feel like this was a call. It's already cost us a lot of money, more than we thought it would, and the product still isn't great, so we're trying to invest in it. And my only point is we're asking for a level of buy-in to try, based on the idea that if we can show with time, I will accept less players playing Entitled Tuesday for less cheating.
Oh, I would love that.
And I will accept a better track record of exactly how we can dial in. We might make just 2 more cases a year easier to break through based on combining data with circumstantial stuff that Proctor gives us that otherwise wouldn't. And there's no way to prevent sophisticated second gunman or, to your point, glasses device, other than in the end, the pure data and the manual view that our amazing team does. I think we're better at teasing this out than you think. You think you could cheat forever. I get it. This is going to be a conversation probably for as long as you and I are choosing to make content together.
I never will try, but that's my...
No, I'm never going to let you try, really.
But if at some point you catch, like number 5 in the world...
Well, number 5 in the world is...
Then I'll be like, yeah, you were right.
Well, number 5 in the world is not cheating currently, I don't think.
No, I mean, if at some point you ever catch...
And by the way, we have to bleep out the numbers I said, because people will look back.
Cool. Well,
this was a long conversation.
Boys, it's already midnight.
Nash, you doing okay? My
Nash
son has been a trooper. Can we hear it for Nash right now? That's what happens when you drag your kid with you to do stuff.
It's midnight. I know that usually that's when the Chess Mafia used to...
That's when we get together. Yeah, that's when we start scheming. Well, I really appreciate you guys having me.
Thanks for like, subscribe, and all the good stuff. And we'll try to come back with even more guests and more important conversations. Cheers.